Hola, hola. My name is Ricardo. I am the host of the Lucha Jovers podcast here in the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. We are a Spanish speaking show dedicated to discussing and analyzing pro wrestling from all across the world. From AW to CMLL, we talk about American wrestling, Japanese wrestling, and of course, Lucha Libre. If something big happened in the pro wrestling world, we will talk about it. So if you know Spanish or have a friend that knows Spanish or want to practice your lucha libre pronunciations, go listen to the Lucha Jovers podcast right here in the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Nos vemos por ahí.
Hey kids, do you like wrestling? Well, we like wrestling too. We are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Myself and Chris Novembrino kind of doing a lazy river of wrestling criticism, going through the news and whatever happened in stateside television wrestling. And also, you know what? Sometimes we just like to watch old stuff and talk about that too. Love for you to give us a listen. If you haven't already, we are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
If this story was any good, maybe you people would understand it. You don't even understand the story. It goes over everybody's head. How great can it be? Maybe they need to talk more during these matches.
And Rich Crage.
This is my entire life's goal, is to be a WWE superstar, and now I am the NXT Women's Champion.
You can take that. If you want that, great. Good for you. I want MJF talking about getting roadhead. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want out of my wrestling. Call me old-fashioned, Joe.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you?
How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. We could have added some clips from our WrestleMania reaction shows in there. I know you describing Paul Heyman's jowls slapping back and forth. This is way too early to do that part of the show. We're going to get not going to be able to monetize this show if we say what you actually said on the instant reaction in the first 15 seconds of this show. So I'll leave it out there. But yeah, there's been a lot of things in our WrestleMania reaction shows that people absolutely loved. Universally praised those reaction shows, including you and I just laughing for 20 minutes straight, apparently, on Sunday, which people loved. People loved it. So I was delirious by that point. I know you were as well, but rave reviews for that show. And I'm pretty proud of the work we did over WrestleMania weekend as well in general. Somebody in our Discord tallied it up, and it was something like 14 and a half hours of content you and I did from Wednesday till Sunday, which is just absolutely absurd. But we're absurd, so makes sense.
You know, many people are saying, Rich.
Several, yeah, people are saying.
Yes, many people are saying that the Sunday Instant Reaction Live is the best piece of audio we have ever done. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but that's what many people are saying.
Many people have said that. They have. Yeah, it was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty good when it was done. Like, normally, we do shows, and there's some times where I'm like, yeah, there we go. We nailed it. And most times I'm like, that sucked. What a terrible show. Who would ever listen to this? After that show, I was like, yeah, no, we did. I think that beginning, even though a lot of it was just you and I giggling like children for about 25 minutes, it worked. It was very cathartic for people, and I know record numbers in the chat room, in the Note-Up Share as it was going on. So no, I thought it was pretty good. I put that up against our McMahon show that we did. It's weird. We seem to take a lot of seem to really shine when we can laugh at WWE and poke fun at it and do that sort of stuff. But yeah, our McMahon, after he retired, I think that was probably my favorite show that we've ever done. Our favorite, bonus audio that we ever did is I'm in a hotel workout room in Michigan recording that thing. But I don't know. That Sunday show was pretty damn good too, and it was awesome to see the numbers, and the Note-Up Chat was going nuts, and yeah, that one felt good when it was done, because it was just like, I knew we couldn't screw that up. Like, that's our moment. You know what I mean? Them fucking tripping on their dick as much as they possibly can. We had to do it. So no, I thought it was good audio. I definitely did.
Yeah, and we were dead right all the way through the entire Vince McMahon process. Our listeners know that, but Now he's back in total control. And who could have saw that coming, Rich?
What? How could he even do this? Joe, how could he even do this is really the bigger question. There must be checks and there must be balances and there must be, I mean, sure, yes, he is the checks and he is the balances and he is the number one shareholder and he obviously orchestrated a coup to remove all the board members that didn't want him back in. But like, how could he do this though? How, Joe?
Well, see,
you can't just take over creative. That's impossible.
Yeah, he very carefully and meticulously sold the company to someone who would keep him in power. It's almost as if we told people that's what he was going to do for many months. Pretty wild.
Well, I for one am stunned. I for one am stunned.
Are melting down over it, but we will get to that topic obviously on this show. This is a packed show. I thought we'd have an easy week. We reviewed everything already, but no. This is a packed show. If you want to hear us review virtually every WrestleMania weekend show that was available to watch, we're going to do each one of them again in painstaking detail on this show tonight.
Yep,
match
exactly.
by match.
Right.
Okay. So settle in. We're going to start with Thursday, Santino Brothers Wrestling, California
That show was good. That show was good. It was a good start to WrestleMania weekend.
We're going to go match by match and do every match that took place on all 47 shows that were available during WrestleMania weekend. We actually will not be doing that, but reviews for nearly every show that took place over the course of the weekend can be found behind our paywall on both the $5 tier, and you may as well just get the $10 tier, though. Otherwise, you'll miss out on the reviews for ROH Supercard of Honor and both nights of WrestleMania. So full audio reviews of everything that took place behind the paywall at patreon.com/the hell is it?
Voices of Wrestling. Voices of Wrestling. Or you can go to flagshippatreon.com and that works too.
They'll figure it out. Nobody's jotting down the actual URL. You know what I mean?
Typing it in as they
yeah. They'll figure it out. They'll find a way to find us. But man, so much to get to otherwise. I mean, but before that, I mean, WrestleMania weekend as a whole, okay? To wrap it up, who do you think the winners and losers of the weekend were? I have a few people in mind. I think that as far as, every year we pick an MVP of the weekend. I think the pick is easy this year. It's got to be Vikingo. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was gonna say, if it's not Vikingo, we can have an argument about that. But I think anybody that's watched, anybody that went through and actually watched as much as you could possibly watch and saw as much as you could possibly see, it's Vikingo. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he delivered on pretty much every match that he had, and some obviously more than others. But yeah, when you combine the Supercard of Honor match with the WrestleCon match, and then you just sprinkle in the rest of the stuff that he did this weekend, to me, he's the no doubter. I can't even. I'm not sure I could fathom another. Who else would you even say? Like, I guess a Mike Bailey you could say, but I think Vikingo had higher highs than Mike Bailey had throughout the weekend. Mike Bailey may have had the numbers. He wrestled a lot. He wrestled more and really was in probably. In terms of like major shows, like Mike Bailey was probably the most prolific wrestler. I know it was like Kid Bandit had like 14 bookings or whatever, but Mike Bailey was in all like the more of the major stuff. You had the numbers.
Kid Bandit had 14 bookings. I saw Kid Bandit wrestle once.
Right. So a lot of the stuff on Wednesday, a lot of the stuff didn't make air.
Everything.
Yeah. So it was a lot of the kind of in between stuff. Whereas everything that Mike Bailey did was on, you saw it and was all, but it's got to be Vikingo. It just has to be the highest highs of anybody that weekend.
Who was sneaky good was Aussie Open. Every time I watched Aussie Open, they were in a match and but the problem is they were in the ladder scramble at ROH. Then they were in that 6-man tag at WrestleCon against Time Machine. So they didn't really get a chance to shine in traditional 2 versus 2 tags, but they worked their asses off and were involved in a lot of great stuff. I guess Commander deserves a mention.
Oh, sure. Yeah, because he was there in a lot of the same spots that Vikingo was in, so he definitely deserves a little bit of credit there for sure.
Yeah, and Mike Bailey, obviously. I thought last WrestleMania weekend was Mike Bailey's.
Yeah, I agree.
He was the MVP last year. I think edging out, I'm trying to think last year. Maybe Takeshita, right? Was really good last year.
Yeah, he had a good Mania weekend. I'm trying to remember who was number. It feels like everybody just declared Bayley as their number one, and then I don't even remember like a debate about number two for last year's Mania weekend. I have to really think about it.
So I thought, last year was more Bayley's year, but yeah, it would have to be Vikingo. But in your eyes, who are some of the other winners and losers? Well, the loser is Circle 6. I mean, that's
let's number. I'd say maybe WWE. I think is probably a loser as well. We'll get to them in a minute. Circle 6 is the number one loser for me for sure, because this is a weekend where they want to make it. They want to put their, you might not know who we are, but after this weekend, you're going to know who we are. Well, I do, and I never want to ever fucking watch them or hear about them or talk about them or even anything again. I'm done. Gone, good, saw it. I'm good forever on Circle 6. And that's I'd imagine that I'm not alone in that, thinking, hey, wow, cool. We're checking this company out. They're really trying to make the name for themselves as, the breaking away from GCW. And they were just embarrassing the entire weekend to the point where I'm never going to watch them ever again. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody hypes. I'm done. They're dead and they're buried to me. I will never, ever spend a second of my life watching any more Circle 6. They do not deserve a second of my life.
Okay, so two things. One, Takeshita wasn't in America yet last WrestleMania weekend. I just looked it up. I think I was conflating his hot indie run when he did get here with WrestleMania.
Yeah,
weekend.
I guess that was a little bit more in the summer. So, okay.
Yeah, he wasn't even around WrestleMania weekend. Number two, when it comes to Circle 6, they just came out of the gate so terribly. And the thing about their weekend was, like you're saying, this was their chance to be exposed to a bunch of brand new eyeballs who probably had never seen their shows, but people are locked in, and there's people sitting down getting ready to watch all the shows WrestleMania weekend, and they had 1 million of them, and they were free. They streamed their shows free on YouTube, so it was accessible. You didn't have to pay a dime. They did that gimmick where they were running little 1-hour shows and running shows all day long. It was a good idea on paper. And then they just come out of the gate with some of the worst fucking shows and matches you'll ever see in your life, basically held in an alley, a back alley, behind a dive bar.
Terrible production, couldn't hear anything, no one's there, bad wrestling, bad gimmicks, bad announcing. Everything started late. What more do you need? It got dark to the point where you couldn't even see. They have a wrestling show that is just people smoking pot at a table. What more do you need? Like, what more can we possibly? Everything, just literally every aspect of producing pro wrestling, they were fucking horrific at. So bad that, I don't know if you noticed, Joe, on Monday and Tuesday, there was a lot of like, what's wrong with the indies? And like big picture conversations of people in the indies, other promoters saying, what can we do to improve? Like everybody did soul searching after they saw that's what got presented this weekend in some of the most high profile spots of the weekend, and some of the more, eyeball, attention grabbing things of the weekend were 11 people in some back alley of a bar watching people smoke weed or whatever. It was just like, what the fuck? Like it really caused a lot of introspection of a lot of indie promoters saying, okay, what's going on? What are we doing here? What's happening?
I think it's a shame. They embarrassed themselves. I mean, they came out of the gate with that Queer Punk Outlaws show, which is going to be one of the worst shows of the year. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The first wrestler out of the curtain is Delightful Dan, the goddamn Candyman. And like, what am I watching? What is this? Who's this for? Then they have that mime come out, like this naked mime doing performance art.
The best part about that was the people in the chat room being like, I wonder who this guy's going to wrestle. Like, he's really like, because people thought it was like a wrestler going out and stripping to like play mind games with his opponent, which would have almost made sense. Like nobody really wanted it, but okay. And then like he just left. And then the next match came and you're like, oh.
Yeah, and even
so it was a naked mime. Okay, got it.
Even like the 20 people who were there, who paid their $6 to get into the show, didn't know what to make of it. So it's not like it was something that maybe is this inside thing among Circle 6 fans that you have to know to promote. No, it was just garbage that nobody understood, what it was or why it was happening. And then they follow up that abomination of a show with the the thing where people just sat around a table and smoked weed. And I don't even know if they attempted to sell tickets to that, but there were no fans there. And we just literally watched low-level indie wrestlers sit at a table with folding chairs and smoke weed. And, they streamed this to the world. It's incredible. They had about a dozen free shows to offer people this weekend. The only shows that were free, and they were selling cheap $6 tickets, and this is the shit that they exposed people to. And like you said, I'm sure there's a lot of people like you who are like, you know what? Now I know what Circle 6 is all about. I'm no longer interested. And the shame of it, Rich, is the next day, after a bunch of people probably had already hand-waved them, the production, the terrible low-level talent, the bad matches, just the grungy, disgusting overall environment of it all, they had those 3 shows that kind of were pretty good.
Yeah,
the Zach Wentz show, the AJ Gray show, and the Jake Christ show on the second day were all decent little 1-hour wrestling shows with actual professionally trained wrestlers who knew what they were doing, having decent little matches. And I feel like if they would have started their weekend with those 3 shows, we might be having a different conversation. Because if the weed smoking show and that weird queer punk outlaws bullshit had been buried at 10 o'clock at night on Saturday or something, we might have, people may have been watching other things and not even been exposed to it. And if they would have come out of the gate with those shows that were actual wrestling shows with good wrestling, then they may have made a good first impression with people like you, so maybe it was just, but the bottom line is you shouldn't be having shows as bad as that queer punk outlaw shows to begin with. I mean, it's just brutal. And whatever that thing was with the people smoking weed, it doesn't make any sense. Who's that for? Who's going to sit there and watch that and enjoy it?
Who wants to sit and watch other people smoke weed for an hour? I mean, it was absolutely absurd. And I could tell you knowing what the chat room looked like on the Wednesday, and the Wednesday was when they just had horrific show after horrific show
stuff.
Yeah, just the awful stuff. And that chat room was filled with people just being like, what the hell is going on? What's happening? I can tell you the next day, Friday, when there was those good shows going on, I was in the chat room, you were in the chat room, Griffin, who does a lot of the coverage for Voices of Wrestling, was in the chat room, and there was 2 other people in that chat room. I don't know what the numbers were. I wasn't looking at the numbers. I had it on a second screen. I just know that chat room went nuts with a bunch of people talking on Wednesday, and there was 5 people talking on Friday, which I think speaks to our point that people said, hey, cool, free wrestling. And then the next day said, you know what? I'll wait till the other stuff's on, and I'm just gonna skip this show because it felt. And again, not knowing the views, I don't know. I wasn't looking at it. It felt like the general tenor was like, oh, okay, I see what this is. I'm good. And then, like you said, it sucked because Friday was some good wrestling shows, and I think for the rest of the weekend, Circle 6 actually did okay, but they were so unprofessional and so just amateur hour that I was like, I do not need to give you guys any more attention or any more time for pretty much the rest of my life. I'm good. I'm over it. It's not being able to figure out how the microphone works, terrible commentary, it's just fucking horrific stuff. It's just, have some fucking pride. You know what I mean? Have some goddamn pride.
Every bad indie wrestling stereotype turned up to 10.
Yeah.
I mean, it couldn't be any worse. They made Game Changer Wrestling look like a classy professional organization.
They babyface Game Changer, yeah. Because then you'd flip the channel and Game Changer's running this pretty nice venue, and Dave Prazak's calling the action. You're like, hey, that's a good guy. And then Veda Scott, oh, she's pretty good too. Okay. And
they've got professional looking graphics on the
right.
screen.
Oh, I know who the wrestlers are because a graphic comes up and the wrestler comes out. Okay. Wait a minute. The ring announcer, I can hear MLJ because their microphone is when you make GCW come across like the professional, well-run, well-oiled machine, you got a real problem.
When part of their charm is they don't even want to be a professional, well-oiled machine. Their whole vibe is we're not professional and well-run, and you made them come across like a professional, smoothly run, slick operation by how amateur hour you were. And they're like a spinoff of Game Changer. People who kind of fell out of favor or wanted out of. I'm not getting into the politics of it, but and then they just. All of the worst stereotypes you can imagine. So they were a big loser on the weekend. It's weird because WWE, they were like a big winner of the weekend in terms of, okay, they drew 130,000 fans between 2 shows. So it's hard to call them a loser. And their Saturday show was amazing. But the obviously the finish of the main event on Sunday, not only was, appears to be a comically bad choice, and I guess time will bear that out, but it also pissed off a lot of their own hardcore fan base, that finish as well. It's not just the angry smarks like us who are mocking this one. Their own fan base was perplexed by that finish, and then were totally put off by Raw the next night. So what are we classifying WWE? Are they losers? And Vince is back.
Yeah.
Which their fan base hates.
right.
So
it's weird.
But on the other hand, they drew 130,000 fans, and the company is now stronger from a business sense than ever because they've formed this sports conglomerate, this monster with UFC, and they've never been stronger than ever. So how do we parse that out? Are they winners and losers? I think they're winners and losers.
Yeah, I think they're winners and losers too. They were winners up until 10:40 on Sunday. Then they were losers. Then they were losers almost all the way through Raw. But then also at the same time that like you're saying, the juxtaposition of all the way through Raw is, oh yeah, and then they sold their company, or their company got merged with UFC, and now they're all way more wealthy than they ever were before. And Vince got an incredible deal, and now he's in a super powerful position in a gigantic sports conglomerate. So it's like.
They're more powerful. They're more powerful than ever. Don't anyone make that mistake that they're not. They're more powerful than ever. And Vince is $6 billion richer than he was on Friday.
And he's like very high in that company. You look at the corporate hierarchy, and we're going to talk about that too. He is very high in that company. Very high. So if you thought any of the Vince McMahon stuff over the last 6 months or 7 months or a year, whatever, it did not matter. The man is wealthier than ever and more powerful than ever.
Well, let's do it this way then. WrestleMania weekend winner, Vince McMahon.
Yes.
Without question.
Right. Loser, Cody Rhodes. Winner, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, for sure.
Loser, Paul Levesque. Because
he's always a fucking loser in my book. But he very much lost this weekend for sure.
Here's your puppet head of creative now, who has a fraction of the power he had 2 days ago, on Friday compared to Sunday or whatever. You know what I mean? So I'd call him a loser of the weekend. I can't even sit here and confidently tell you that he'll be around in 6 months. He may not have any. Vince has been slowly taking look, and again, what podcast has been telling you this for months and months and months? Okay. Vince has slowly been crawling his way back into the creative and taking more control of the creative and influencing the creative. Now
we thought it dated back a lot earlier than most people thought too.
And then once he started showing up to Raw, forget it. Like now you're just in denial if you thought that there was any other reason.
Remember that? It was how many weeks ago was that when they're like, oh, the headset? No, he doesn't even have it.
I wasn't wearing a headset.
He's just visiting John. Yeah, he visited his good friend John Cena. We're like, what? Come on.
So
that was that 2 weeks ago? It wasn't that long ago, right? It was like 2 weeks ago at most.
And remember, they never denied that he had influence on the creative.
Triple H didn't deny it. Their fans denied it. Triple H said, "Oh, it's great having Vince there. He's a great mind for the business or whatever." And it's like,
Nick Khan never denied it.
No,
they never denied it. Now, if you look, it's like Vince is saying that he's admitting like he's controlling the big picture stuff, but what he's saying is, "Oh, I can't be in the weeds. I can't be in the weeds. I can't do that." Well, he has said that before. Has said that he can't be in the weeds before. He's so much of a control freak, he can't help himself.
No, when he hired,
right now it's
the exact quote, not to cut you off, the exact quote he used, and like word for word exact quote he used when he hired Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff to head up Raw and SmackDown respectively, many years ago. What was it, 2018 or whatever it was, or 29? I forget when it was exactly that he did that. Exactly, he said, I can no longer be in the weeds, so I've hired these men to take over. How long did... First off, Eric Bischoff couldn't get out of catering because he's a fucking fraud and doesn't know anything about modern wrestling. So he was out of the weeds very quickly on the SmackDown side. And then the Heyman side, I mean, how long was it, really? Like, I know you and I were kind of following that. It was, a few months, maybe 5 months or whatever. Because he gave Heyman a little bit of a leash, but then it was very clear... It was clear what Heyman... what the Heyman influence stuff was. And it was very clear when... Vince said, okay, we're done here. I'm taking back control. Thank you, though.
Yeah, for sure. So, and that's what'll happen here. Again, it'll be like, more and more. And then before you know it, it's, Triple H is essentially, slightly more powerful than the 90-person writing staff that they have there. And, and like Dave Meltzer says, he goes, it's Triple H is technically in charge of the shows, but then Vince just changed on Monday. Vince was
Right.
back to his old tricks.
Let me tell you, you're not in charge if people can change your stuff, and then that's becomes what happens. You know what I mean? Like if I'm not in charge of my company, if I do something and my boss says no, change it, and this is what you're going to do instead, that means I'm not in charge.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's I can be in charge of my department, but ultimately I'm not in charge if then what output comes from my department is changed by the boss. That guy's in charge, not me. I mean, and that's what the case. Triple H can write all he wants, and he can coordinate all the writing staff, and he can coordinate all the wrestlers and do all this sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, if Vince says, "Nah, screw that," crumbles up a piece of paper, throws it away, and writes up a whole new format sheet, then you're not in charge. You're just a pawn.
Yeah, and we already saw this Monday, literally 24 hours after the sale, that we're already back to the old tricks of rewriting the show all day long and rewriting the show literally while it's happening,
including while a rest. Did you see that clip of Seth Rollins getting like talked to by a PA?
I did.
That was great too, where he's just like leaning over and he's just like,
explain,
all right.
So explain to people, literally while Seth Rollins was in the ring during a commercial break, they had to send production people to the ring to get him out of the ring before the commercial ended because Vince changed the script while the man was in the ring. This is what it was like before Vince was ousted in shame. But like we told everybody was happening, he bullied his way back in. He found a way back in, and he found a way to sell this thing to allies of his who will keep him in power to ensure that he stays back in. And when we say back in, that means back in, running the company and also running the creative. And that's exactly where we're at. So Vince, big winner.
Yeah.
Vikingo, big winner. Paul Levesque, big loser. Circle 6, big loser. Cody, you want to call him a loser? You calling him a loser?
I am calling him a loser, yeah.
I'm going to give that one an incomplete. I'm gonna give that one an incomplete, and I guess we'll dive into that later. Any other winners and losers from WrestleMania weekend?
Real quick, and this is a pretty interesting thing here. We did as a website, we did a poll for the top 10 matches of Mania weekend. Were you curious about their votes and the results at all?
Yeah, I don't know the results of this.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at them as we speak. Just Fred Moreland, who co-hosts of the Good, the Bad, and the Hungry podcast here on the Voice Wrestling Podcast Network, our AEW podcast, put together this. But let's read it because I think they're kind of interesting. Number 10 is Black Taurus, Commander, and Vikingo from the WrestleCon Super Show, Mark Hitchcock Super Show. Highest vote was third place for that one, though, so did not get any first place votes, but that finished 10th, and hard to argue with that one. It's a great match.
Wait, this is the main event 3-way from WrestleCon?
Yes, Black Taurus, Commander, and Vikingo.
Yeah, I voted for that match. I thought the WrestleCon show had 4 notebook matches, making it probably one of the top 3 shows of the whole weekend, honestly.
And a crazy Whiplash show, too, because there was a lot of real shitty stuff before that. And then the WrestleCon Super Show came, and it was like a Whiplash of, oh, my God, yes, like Ian Riccoboni talking and not screaming at me or telling me to suck his dick. Like, I can hear the announcers. There's lighting and professional wrestlers and crowds. Oh, my God. Yeah, that was...
professional ring announcer, Bobby Cruz, instead of Kevin Gill on a broken microphone. Yeah.
Broken microphone, reading on his phone with text messages coming in as he's reading on his phone, and he does not have it on silent. So you're hearing ding as he's trying to announce guys' names. Coming out to the ring next, ding. It's just like, if you could hear him in between the broken microphones. So god damn it. 9th place, Konosuke Takeshita versus Yuki Ueno from the DDT Goes Hollywood show.
I didn't think that was a great match. I didn't think that was a great match. I thought that was a really good match.
Yeah, I'm with you. I did not vote for it either.
But a lot of people really, really dug that match. I went like 3.5. I thought it was just a good match. I didn't think that was a great match.
I think I went 4 flat on it, but I had a lot more matches that weekend that I enjoyed a lot more.
I had 16 total notebook matches for the weekend, and that one wasn't one of them. But I will say it was probably one of the better matches that wasn't, so it'd probably make my top 20.
Number 8, I know. I don't think you ended up watching this one. It was Mao and Katsumata versus Chris Brooks and the sex doll Yoshihiko.
I wouldn't watch that if you tied me to the fucking chair.
It was good. I swear it was good. Good.
I cannot watch a match with something that's like a not a shoot person. It's like with a kayfabe fucking person, a fucking sex. I'm not watching it. You know, I'm not going to go full Cornette here and tell you that you're a fucking loser if you watched it and enjoyed it, but I am never going to watch that and enjoy it. Does that make sense? I can't.
It does.
I cannot fucking watch
it. It does. It did receive one first place vote as well. So 7.86 from the cage match inmates. So the cage match inmates agree.
Well, they're a bunch of idiots. We all know that, so
We've already decided that. I thought this is a bit surprising, and I wonder if this kind of got caught up in the weekend. I wonder if you took this vote, like if you took this vote every single day and let people sort of. I know you can't really do a top 10 every single day, but if you did like some different type of polling, I wonder if this match was a little bit higher because Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus the Usos was 7th, and it only got to 3rd place. It appeared on 11 of 15 ballots of people that, contributors that sent it in. I thought that match was going to be a lot higher on that list because I thought that was a tremendous match.
I was the 3rd place vote.
So you clearly liked it. Yeah, I was kind of surprised. So I don't know if it was just you and I liked it a lot more than others, but I was a little bit.
Match.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see it finish 7th. But then when you look at the other matches,
I make a point related to that. I had 16 notebook matches on the weekend, and 6 of them came from WWE.
I know I had a lot of WWE matches on my top 10. I felt like kind of but they had a great weekend. They had a great in-ring weekend. I thought they absolutely.
WrestleMania had a lot of high-end matches.
Yeah,
and I thought that the Gargano Grayson Waller match was a really great match. So I thought that 6 out of the 10 what I would call great matches over the course of the weekend to me came from WWE.
Certainly. 6th place, Mark Briscoe and Samoa Joe from the Supercard of Honor, of course. One first place vote appeared on 11 of 15 ballots.
Yeah, good match. I wasn't a notebook match for me, but a lot like Takeshita and Ueno, I thought it was a really good match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way there. 5th place, it's one of my highest voted matches, was Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. 2 first place votes. I thought this was spectacular. Yeah, we talked about it on Sunday. Match of the night for Sunday, clearly, and just a solid as hell match. I mean, or Saturday. What day? I don't even say it was on Saturday. I've lost all track of time and place, but it was good. I mean, I thought it was just a fantastic match, and I saw some people didn't really. I don't know. I can't understand what you wouldn't like about this match. It just, to me, it hit all the right notes, and they just beat the fuck out of each other, man. You know what I mean? Like Cage Match Inmates 9.03. I think it was just clearly one of the better matches of the entire weekend.
4.5 out of me in my number 4 match.
4th place was the Reach for the Sky ladder match for the World Tag Team titles. Of course, one first place vote appeared on 13 of 15 ballots. 8.26 right now on Cage Match for the Reach for the Sky ladder match, which I liked, but put it towards the bottom of my top 10.
Yeah, I had it 5th behind my number 1 and the 4 really good WWE matches. I had it 5th.
Number 3rd was Commander and Vikingo from Supercard of Honor. Now, this is my first place match. I had this number 1. 4 of the people voted it first, but appeared on 13 of 15 ballots. 8.68 right now from the Cage Match Inmates. But to me, this was the best match of the entire weekend, in my mind.
This was my number 1. Where did it finish in the poll?
It finished 3rd.
Wow. I don't even know what you have. Well, I guess it's going to be the 3-way, Gunther, Sheamus, and McIntyre, I would think would have to be in there. I have no fucking clue what number 1 is going to be unless I would be very surprised if it's Roman and Cody, but I wouldn't argue with it either.
Roman and Cody did not appear in the top 10.
Oh my God, I had that match 2nd. Wow.
I had it in my top 10 too. We're apparently WWE stands, man. I don't know. I had so many of my matches. It was.
I mean, it was a great match.
Yeah. I think the finish is probably clouding a lot of people's thoughts. But.
What am I forgetting? Okay, what was number 2? Because
number 2, and one of them. You mentioned number 1. You already mentioned number 1. Number 2 was Eddie Kingston and Claudio Castagnoli for the ROH World Title.
Come on, that wasn't a great match. Come on, that was a really good match, but there in no universe was that better than Roman and Cody Rhodes. That's a disgrace. That's way too high. But the number 1 I can't argue with because I had it in my top 5 and it was a great match.
Yeah, that one had 4 first place votes, and we're talking pretty small margins here between the points. But that was Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Gunther IC title match from WrestleMania Sunday.
I am surprised Gunther, Sheamus, and Drew came out number 1, but it really was a great match. I really would have thought before the poll that Vikingo and Commander would have came out number 1.
I thought so too. So much so that I almost did like strategic voting of like, you know what, I'm going to put it like third because it's, you know, whatever. Then I was like, nah, it's the best match of the week. I'll put it number 1. And then, seeing where it ended up, I was like, whoa, okay.
I am stunned that Castagnoli and Kingston finished that high. If you would have told me it was in the top 10, I would have said, okay, like maybe bottom half, 7 to 10 range. But I had it at 4 stars flat. I mean, it was one of my 16 matches that I threw in the notebook, but man, when I made my top 10, I didn't even consider it for one of the top 10 spots. I'm very surprised that finished as high as it did. Really good match, though. I mean, really good match. But to finish ahead of Vikingo and Commander is stunning to me. But how many people vote? Like 10, 15 people?
We had 15. We had 15 people vote from the website. Now, that was people that felt truly like they had watched as many matches from the weekend as they possibly could. And there's a giant honorable mentions list, too. So that'll be up by the time most of you guys listen to this. Live listeners, it won't be up yet for you. Obviously, it's not up there right now. But by the time most of you listening on podcast, it'll be up there. But yeah, it's a good collection if you are still trying to catch up on the weekend or you have some time and you're like, what's the best of the best? I mean, you got a top 10 and then a giant honorable mentions list as well of every match that got points. And I will say Cody and Roman just missed by 3 points. They missed 10th place. So they were the last out of the top 10.
I tell you some that people may not be talking about. I thought Aussie Open and Jeff Cobb versus Time Machine from WrestleCon was a really kick-ass guys doing stuff 6-man. I would also mention the Jordan Oliver and Nick Wayne versus Motor City Machine Guns from, I don't know which Game Changer show it was. It may have been, was it Spring Break maybe? The one where they won the tag team titles.
Oh God, I've lost all track of which Game
Oliver,
Changer show was
okay,
one.
It was on the it was on the 31st. I just don't know which show it was. I think it was Spring Break. But
it was Spring Break. Yeah, it was Spring Break.
Oliver and Wayne, they beat a DDT team. Which DDT team?
Oh, the Mao and Bailey one, are you talking about, or the other?
Yeah. Moonlight Express.
Yeah,
they beat Moonlight Express earlier in the weekend to take the number 1 contender spot, which was a good match. And then they beat Motor City Machine Guns to win the tag titles, which was a great match. And what I liked about that was, I don't watch any Game Changer other than on WrestleMania weekend. And I was impressed that they actually did a piece of booking throughout the weekend with that team. That impressed me. They might be doing more actual booking and storytelling than back when I was following them. And if they are, that's great, because they told a weekend-long story with Jordan Oliver and Nick Wayne, who I guess they call themselves the East-West Connection or East-West Express?
East-West. Oh God, what is it? People are screaming.
Yes, it doesn't
Note up
matter.
chat room. Don't worry, I'm going to get it in one moment. I think it's East-West Express, but let me make sure.
So I'm going to throw Jordan Oliver and Nick Wayne
East-West
to my
Express.
winners.
It is East-West Express, yes.
They're Express. Okay, yeah. And I'll tell you what, because I don't watch a ton of Game Changer, and we got a lot more to get to, so we'll get off WrestleMania weekend in a minute. But I think Jordan Oliver is much improved. I used to bang on him pretty hard. But the one thing that we always used to say is it was never a lack of effort.
No, he always tried.
That kid works his ass off. He tries. He takes criticism in stride, because he used to get beat up on Twitter all the time, and he's let it roll off his back. And he's put on some weight. His footwork is a million times better than what I remember the last time I've seen him, which was probably last WrestleMania weekend, to be completely honest. And his overall energy and the way he comes across, everything about him has improved. And I'm really not surprised, because it was never effort. It was never an effort thing with him. He's someone who has kept his nose down and grinded, and you can really see the improvements. So, good for him. And I think that sometimes is the perils of seeing wrestlers so early in their development before they're really ready to be seen. And that's something that we've talked about before. Well, a lot of times
a big issue with him too, and we talked about this in a lot of the previews, is that when we all kind of first learned and first got to see Jordan Oliver on a larger stage, it was during the pandemic, and it was when GCW was running as many shows as they possibly could during the pandemic, and Oliver was being put in positions to have 45 and 60-minute matches, and that's just not him. He's not a main event 45-minute match guy. That's okay. That's not a bad thing to be, and being in a tag team is not a bad thing to be either. And I think what really happened with this East-West Express is you found a way to accept accentuate the positives of both Oliver and Wayne and hide some of the negatives that, hey, these guys aren't great at doing 45-minute long, epic main events. And that's fine. Go out there, have your tell your tight 15 to 20 minute story, bounce off of one another, play off of one another. There's no shame in tag team wrestling. Like we definitely need, and I like this. They're to me like an elite, indie tag team at this point, and there's not many of them. There's really just, you go back and you go look at the world of the indies right now. How many guys are like a traveling indie super team? There's just they don't really exist. There's Violence is Forever and a few other ones here and there, but that's a real good spot for them to be in if they really want to grind and go out, and even if they don't, even if they just stick around in GCW and some of the adjacent promotions. It's a good gimmick, and there's no shame in being in the top tag team because they can main event. They can main event as that tag team, and we saw them do that in the GCW versus DDT show. They were a prominent tag team on that show and a prominent tag team throughout the entire weekend. So there's just no shame in doing it. And I think it's the best for both Oliver and Wayne at this point in the development to be in this tag team. And yeah, I was super impressed by them as well.
So I thought Supercard of Honor was the best show of the weekend, edging out WrestleMania Saturday, because I thought Supercard of Honor was the better show top to bottom than WrestleMania Saturday, even if WrestleMania Saturday had those super high-end matches. Plus, I thought Vikingo and Commander was just kind of a seminal match of the weekend. So I have Supercard of Honor 1, WrestleMania Saturday 2, and probably the Hitchcock Memorial Super Show 3, edging out WrestleMania Sunday. And then from there, I don't know. Those to me were the 4 standout shows of the weekend, unless I'm missing an obvious one, and I don't think I am. Where are you with the best shows of the weekend?
Yeah, I think I'm Supercard of Honor number 1, and I'm WrestleMania Saturday number 2. But I think it's a more of a 1A 1B type of thing. I feel like I could flip flop on either of those. I thought WrestleMania Saturday was spectacular from top to bottom. That was one of the better wrestling shows. What I will say, probably the reason I would put WrestleMania Saturday number 2 is there was a lot of downtime too. I'm downgrading them because I had to listen to Little Uzi Vert at like 10:25 p.m. I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's get the main event going here. So, maybe I will put Supercard of Honor. Supercard of Honor, a more tight show, more fully formed. So, yeah, I'll go Supercard of Honor number 1, WrestleMania Saturday number 2. I did enjoy the Tokyo Joshi Pro show. I know that you have not seen that one. I thought that one was pretty solid. Otherwise, I don't know that anybody other show like really stood out to me. I'd probably WrestleCon, of course, but I don't know that I could rank anything else besides that. It felt like the rest of it was kind of just like a blob of good, and then obviously a much larger blob of bad. But I don't know. I'd probably put WrestleCon and Tokyo Joshi Pro in like a top 4, top 5 or whatever. But as far as like ranking them, I don't know that I could give you a definitive like after the 1, 2. To me, Supercard of Honor number 1, clearly WrestleMania Saturday 2. And then, Tokyo Joshi Pro, WrestleCon, and then, honestly, that one Circle 6 show.
Sunday?
I didn't like WrestleMania Sunday nearly as much. I thought that one was just dragged on. And when you have a match as bad as fucking Edge and Finn Balor, no, that can't be in my top 5.
Too much high end, though, with the 3-way for the IC and Roman Cody, so
That's
I have
true.
to stick it in.
Yeah, that is true.
I have to put it ahead some of these indie shows. I just have to, but I like the New Japan Impact Multiverse was okay. The Gringo Loco show, the Lucha show on Saturday was okay.
I'd like to rewatch that at some point in my life because like I turned it on like I think it was either Sunday night after we did our instant reaction or Monday morning, and my eyes just like I was just, I can't do this. You know what I mean? I was just like, okay, I was just sick of wrestling. So I don't know. I might need to go because it didn't leave an impression on me, and I don't know if that's necessarily the problem with the show as much the problem with me just being like, I don't know, done with wrestling.
And I think if you would have combined those 3 Circle 6 shows on Friday afternoon, they would have made one pretty decent show. The ones that ran back to back to back, the AJ Gray, Zach Wentz, and Jake Chris shows.
For sure.
Other than that, some of the worst shows were the Thursday Circle 6 shows we talked about. I thought the emo fight show was, oh my god, that was the pits.
That was not great.
The Jimmy Lloyd's Degeneration F was not a good show. The For the Culture wasn't a very good show. Poorly booked. Yeah,
I didn't like
didn't see
DDT.
Prestige
I know
yet.
you didn't see the full DDT show. I did not think that DDT put their best foot forward on any show.
Would you call them a loser? Of the
you know what?
weekend?
Yeah. Hold on a minute. That's great. Yeah, let me add them to the losers because this is a good opportunity for them to really, to shine. I mean, this is about them promoting their, promoting Wrestle Universe, promoting DDT, and I thought they did a really, really poor job at DDT Goes Hollywood. That was, and like, I hate to say it because it was like an okay wrestling show, but I don't think anybody really wanted like an okay wrestling show. I think people wanted DDT, you know what I mean? They wanted something that felt and looked like DDT. And then I thought DDT versus GCW was just no good at all. Just generic as hell. And again, so I don't want to say they were like losers seems strong, but I don't think that they capitalized on the weekend. And maybe I don't know that they made the most of their weekend is probably the best way to put it. If you want to call that a loser, then they're probably a loser. But they just did not seem like they capitalized on the potential to really get new eyeballs and get new fans. Because I just didn't think. I think if you went there and had never heard of DDT before, you're probably like, all right. Good wrestling, okay, and you move on. You know what I mean? Like I just don't think they offered anything big that's going to hook you to be a fan for them. Moving forward.
I've never been high on them breaking through in the U.S. I mean, we talked about that a couple years ago when they were making a big push to break through in the U.S. I just don't. I think they're just way too niche to break through in the U.S. There's just things about that product that are way too outside of our culture to where they're ever going to make a serious dent here. And I don't think that this weekend helped them at all. The Gringo Loco show, I think if it hadn't been literally the very last indie show of the weekend, if it had been on Thursday, I think it would have been a better show. Vikingo very clearly did as little as he could get away with doing without being called out for not doing anything, because he had wrestled a million times and his body was probably all banged up. He was probably tired as fuck. He wasn't lazy. And the match was good, but I have a feeling if that match against Laredo Kid had been on Thursday at 2:00 in the afternoon, we're dealing with fresh bodies, it would have went from a good match to a great match. And the rest of the show was fine. I mean, I didn't think anything on the show stunk. The problem was nothing on that show really stood out, and nothing really made me. I don't know who to give credit to this to. It was someone in our Voices of Wrestling Slack, but nothing on that show made me inch up onto the edge of my couch. That's a great way of putting it. You know what I mean? Like nothing really got me so invested or was so great to where I'm like, oh man, it was just a show. It was a show and it was fine. And I feel like it was a victim of taking place so late in the weekend. But any other WrestleMania weekend thoughts? Because we have a shit ton of stuff.
No, I think I'm ready to put it in the rear view. But if you do not want to put it in the rear view, as we said, 14 and a half hours, I think roughly of bonus audio reviewing pretty much every show. Like we said, I think there's maybe 4 shows that made tape that we didn't review or recap, and it's like very small ones. It's nothing major that we didn't watch. So yeah, that is just insane effort by us this weekend. If I do say so myself, including like you said, the instant reaction lives for Ring of Honor and both nights of WrestleMania. Those are on the $10 tier. The rest of the bonus audio is on the $5 tier. But let's be honest, you're gonna want to listen to that WrestleMania Sunday audio for sure. So $10 tier for that. Patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling, voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon, and Flagship Patreon.com if you want any more WrestleMania weekend audio. But I think I'm ready to officially close the book on WrestleMania weekend. If you are,
yes,
let's do it. WrestleMania weekend 2023. Goodbye. All right, so we are going to get to plenty of stuff this week. As we said, it is an insane week of wrestling. I thought the same thing too. I cracked my knuckles and I was like, we're gonna have a light week, man. We watched everything, we covered everything, we're gonna be good. Well, along the way, and we kind of sensed this on Sunday as it was kind of rumor, and then it became official. We'll talk about it here in a little bit. WWE and UFC merging under a new company, under Endeavor. We're gonna talk about all that a little bit later, talk about the corporate hierarchy and all that other stuff, and what it means for WWE in the future. Of course, we're going to get a little bit more detail on the Vince McMahon is back for real this time, for real this time. We've been telling you for months that this was kind of in the works and was going to happen. And then as of a couple weeks ago, how obvious it was that it was going to happen. And now everybody will just have to fully admit that it has happened and it is real. So we'll touch on that. Raw, they did a huge rating for the post WrestleMania show, so we'll talk a little bit about that and whether that will get sustained at all. Believe it or not, we're gonna have to dig this news in like later in the show at some point. We'll get to it. AEW is gonna run Wembley Stadium on August 27th. We'll talk about that, AEW's debut in the United Kingdom. Oh yeah, Jay White, he is All Elite. He arrived on the scene at this week's episode of Dynamite. We also have, because of course this is an NWA podcast, NWA 312, April 7th from Studio One Events LLC in Highland Park, Illinois. We're going to talk about that show and preview that. And then if we have time, get to New Japan Sakura Genesis. I feel bad. New Japan's in Sumo Hall with Okada and Sonata, but it's like, yeah, if we get to it, we had a lot to get to, but we'll try to get to that show. Sakura Genesis coming up this weekend. And then also huge news in the world of MLW, the world that just does not stop, cannot stop, and will not stop. Real One, aka Enzo Amore, has been released by MLW. And hey, did you know Battle Riot 5 is this weekend, Joe?
I did, because I'm locked into MLW Underground.
Of course. Well, you might not be able to watch it after next week, though, right?
They just did show number 9.
Okay. Well, all right.
The rumor was 10,
tick,
right?
Tock, tick, tock. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, Battle Riot 5 is this weekend at the 2300 Arena. So there you go. Yes, you did not know that's happening. Well, there's a problem, though, because, and we'll get to it, Real One is in the main event going for the World Heavyweight title. So I don't know what they're going to do with that, but we'll touch on that if we get time. But we do have to start, unfortunately, with the news.
Before we do, Butch,
sorry, yeah.
Real quick, did you see, this kind of fell through the cracks WrestleMania weekend, but did you see Shingo versus Hanare from Korakuen Hall?
I did not. I was told by many people I should see it, and I tried to watch wrestling this week, and I just couldn't. So I was able to watch it today and yesterday to kind of catch up for the show, but I did not get to that yet. No.
When you get around to that match, if that would have taken place in LA, top 5 match of the weekend.
Damn.
Easy.
Okay. All right.
Oh, it was great. Oh, it's phenomenal. They did. It was the King of Pro Wrestling gimmick, which Shingo is best suited for. You know why? Because he came from Dragon Gate, where they would do this kind of wacky shit, right? So he's got history with coming up with wild ways to work matches and things like that. So the deal here was you had to beat the man you had to beat your opponent 3 times, once via submission, once via 3 count, and once via knockout. And whoever got to all 3 of those things first was the winner.
I'm listening.
So it wasn't the goofy style King of Pro Wrestling where you're yucking it up with Toru Yano or whoever.
There's no cages and no dog cages or any of that bullshit.
No, they were just attempting to beat the living shit out of each other, and that's what they did. And I got to tell you, Shingo has made something out of this dopey fucking title that nobody cares about, and he just delivers. I mean, we saw against Taichi in that feud, and now we're seeing it with Hanare. And it's like, this thing was kind of just something to keep him busy while he was out of the main event mix. And now he's fucking killing it in main events in Korakuen Hall in matches like this. You're going to love the match. So
sounds absolutely up my alley. Yeah. Maybe tonight after the show. That sounds right up my alley.
Watch it with a clear head. Wait till, you've watched a lot of wrestling. You're probably burnt out. Wait till you're in the mood for some fucking wrestling and put that match on. And there's no way you're not going to think it's great. So I just want to sneak that in before, because there really would have been no other opportunity to talk about it. So,
all right, but as I said, I was kind of alluding to there, we do have to unfortunately start the show with the passing of Robert Miller, Bushwhacker, Butch, half of the Sheepherders. He passed away over WrestleMania weekend. He was actually there, correct? He was at one of the hotels, if I remember correctly, there, and unfortunately passed. He, of course, is most famous for his run as half of the Bushwhackers in the WWF. But him and his career and the team's career is so much larger than that. And I think that's what we really want to do here, because a lot of other places you're going to listen to, if they even do mention it, are just going to talk about the Bushwhackers. And they're like, oh, haha, they were hilarious. And it's like, they have such a larger career. I mean, Robert Miller's career started in the early 60s and was going until God, I think Luke is still wrestling like today, right? Like Luke literally this weekend.
Luke has wrestled matches in 2023. Now, yeah. I don't know, is he just doing, I'm sure he's just doing comedy spots, and I'm sure he's not bumping or anything, but he has never stopped being booked for pro wrestling matches to this day, Luke. And Butch stopped working around 2001, 2002. So Luke outlasted Butch in the ring by about 20 years. But Butch had been kind of in bad health for a number of years.
Yeah.
He didn't look great at the WWE Hall of Fame. God, that had to be what? That had to be almost 10 years ago. So,
and I don't. Some people know their WWE Hall of Fame. I don't recall when they got in. But okay, all right.
So that's all. That's like 8 years ago, and he wasn't.
I remember he was kind of hunched over, and he looked older. I mean, you could the two of them, like one of them looked like significantly older than the other. Yeah, and okay. So that I do remember that now.
Yeah. So he was 78 years old, because remember, by the time they got to the WWF in 1989, they were already well into their 40s. So they would have been 43, 44 years old by the time they got into the WWF. Actually, it was late 88, because they were in the middle of the NWA US Tag Team title tournament at the time, at the end of 88 for WCW. And they quit the promotion with no notice and jumped to WWF in the middle of the tournament. And see if you could pull the brackets up, because if I'm not mistaken, they were still alive in the tournament.
Yeah, I believe they were. Let me try to get it, but I'm almost positive I read that earlier, doing some research, that they were alive in the tournament and set up to be, a big part of that. But let me make sure I can find the exact bracket.
Yeah, and then I'll talk through it, because they were all set to set up another feud with the Fantastics, which was really their rivals for many, many years throughout the 80s. Even different versions of the Sheepherders were in feuds with the Fantastics. We covered one of their feuds with the Fantastics on one of our deep dives behind the paywall when we did the UWF Tag Team title deep dive, the 1986 UWF Tag Team deep dive. A lot of that is centered around the Fantastics and the Sheepherders and all of those New Zealand boot camp matches and the barbed wire cage matches that those two teams were having with one another, which really took the Fantastics out of their element, having those sort of, bloody hardcore bouts. But that was right up the Sheepherders' alley. And that's why when a lot of fans of a certain age, only knew of them as the Bushwhackers, and then people would always say, oh, these guys had a whole second life as the wild Sheepherders, who were like these original hardcore wrestlers and with their bloody brawls. They're predominantly talking about the matches against the Fantastics, is what people are remembering, from Mid-South, around 86, mostly in 86, and later on in I guess that feud really was in 1986. But yeah, so they left. Did you find those tournament brackets?
I can't find the brackets themselves, but I do know they were going to face the Fantastics in the finals of that tournament. I mean, that was.
There you go. See, that's
They were alive. They were alive, and that was the goal, was to have the Fantastics face the Sheepherders in the finals, and then they left.
Yeah, and then from there, who knows who would have won the match, because the U.S. tag titles were often centered around the Fantastics. So they probably would have had their really what would have been their third feud, but
they ended up beating Eddie Gilbert and Ron Simmons eventually in the finals, but I can't seem to find the full brackets. Yeah, the Fantastics ended up beating them in the finals of that tournament,
and they were just a replacement, I guess, or I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. There's
a title history. There's that great title histories website that has a list of all the tournaments too, but you might not be able to find it on the spot like that. But the point here is they left in the middle of the tournament and were probably going to be major factors in the tournament. And they left in the middle of the tournament, which wasn't exactly doing business the right way. But when Vince says, I need you to start right now, and you've got the most lucrative run of your career in front of you, I guess you do it. And that really was the most lucrative run of their careers. And they transitioned to the Bushwhacker gimmick, which was an undercard prelim comedy gimmick that I would assume most of the people listening to would be familiar with, because they lasted well into the 90s. I mean, they lasted into 1996 as the Bushwhackers. So from late 88 to 96, and they were mainstays, and they were over with kids, and they had a long run, and they probably made more money than they made in the rest of their career combined during those years, working all those pay-per-views and everything else. They never got super high on the card, but they were always around, and they were always on the pay-per-views, and they were always on TV, and they worked all the house shows. So they made a shit ton of money working less than half as hard as they ever did before. I mean, they barely bumped. They did nothing but comedy spots, the battering ram and And you could think of all the spots, licking people coming down to the ring, and the distinctive walk with the arms up and down and all that. So good for them in their 40s and 50s, making the big money after all those years of carving up their foreheads and doing all this just really insane shit, which, as Rich said, goes all the way back to the 1960s when they started in New Zealand. And then they were underneath guys in Australia for Jim Barnett for a while. And they formed a tag team there. And they kicked around for many years in Southeast Asia and in Japan, even before New Japan and All Japan were a thing. Like those guys, they were working Japan way back in, the IWE days and shit like that. And kicking around Oceania and Southeast Asia. And what I did for our match of the week this week was I knew I was going to pick a Sheepherders match. I just didn't know which one. And I went with their debut in Portland because a lot of people talk about that match, and it's against Adrian Adonis and Ron Starr. And a lot of people talk about that match like it was their U.S. debut, because if you listen to Don Owens ring announcing, he announces it as this is the Kiwi. I forget what they were billed as.
The Kiwi Sheepherders, I believe, is what they were called. I think in Portland.
And he says and he announces it as their American debut, and in the commentary saying that as well, which isn't entirely true because they had worked the Hawaii territory a few months earlier in 1970. This was 1979. So their first matches in the U.S. were actually for 50 state big time, not Leia Maevea's promotion, which came later. The old NWA territory run by Ed Francis. Okay, that's where they worked first in the United States in early 1979. And actually, if you watch that match that I have up for Match of the Week, if you listen to the post-match promo, if you listen carefully, you can hear Butch say that they are the champions of New Zealand, Australia, and Hawaii. He mentions Hawaii. So, that tells you, too, that they had been there. Now, they never actually won those version of the NWA tag team titles in Hawaii, but that was just the kind of embellishing that all of the territory guys did back in the day, because who was going to fact check it?
Right, no one's going to actually find that out. I mean, you could say literally anything, and only your deepest of nerds would know, and even then it would be almost nearly impossible to figure that out. So, yeah, who cares? Say you're the champion of Hawaii. Who cares? Like
one or two scattered newsletter readers in 1979 may have known that they were full of shit, that they won the titles in Hawaii, but they had worked a lot of Canada before that. I mean, they worked in a
lot of Stampede.
They worked
a lot of Stampede.
They worked for Stu Hart. They worked across the country in Canada because they also worked Grand Prix, which I couldn't find any evidence. But chances are they worked in the U.S. even before 1979 in Hawaii and Portland, because Grand Prix used to run shows in Vermont. They used to run spot shows in Vermont. And as much as they worked in Grand Prix in the early and mid 70s, I would find it very hard to believe that they never got booked in Vermont. Now, do those match records exist? They don't. Am I going to sit here and tell you I researched it for a week? I didn't. I looked for 10 minutes and couldn't find any evidence that they worked in Vermont. But just knowing what I know about the history of that territory and the territory at that time, I would be willing to bet that they worked Vermont sometime in the 70s before they went to Hawaii in 79. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, I put up the Portland match because that's widely regarded as their debut in the contiguous 48 state, the lower 48, whatever you want to call it. They win that match. The post-match promo, Adonis and Starr, they admit, hey, we underestimated these. I love the post. Did you watch it? I love the post-match promo.
I watched all that stuff. Yeah, which is really another thing too that's cool about it. If you watch it, is there's a pre-match promo where they talk about it's Adonis and Starr talking about it. Adonis is like, I'm sorry I let you down, but like I'm going to prove next time. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do sort of stuff like that. But what I love about it is the Sheepherders come in and they present them on Portland television like, you've never seen these guys because this is their first, like you said, this is the first time we've ever seen them. This is the first time that they're ever on in America or whatever. But then what they do too that's cool about it is they still make them seem like a really big deal. They're like, well, we've heard a lot about these guys, and they're in a main event, so they're obviously like they're telling you, like the dorks these days who would just cry and whine and bitch and moan if we don't get a video, like a 45-minute video package about every single person that debuts. Here comes these guys out of nowhere that go to right to the main event, and all that they have to do is say, hey, we've heard a lot about these guys, and hey, they're in main events, so they must be important. You know what I mean? Like these guys must be important. They must be a big deal because they've come in here and they're already in main events and they're already going for our titles. So yeah, all you had to do was present them as a big deal. And guess what? The fans were like, wow, these guys are a big deal because they're already in main events and the announcer's saying that they're a big deal. It's not that hard. Wrestling is very
Hold
easy.
on. There was no video package?
No video packages at all. Don Owen just said, these guys, we've heard a lot about these guys, but this is the first time that we're seeing them. But clearly they must mean something because they're already in the main event and they're already challenging for the title. And then guess what? The fans were going absolutely fucking nuts to see Adonis and Star beat these guys because these guys came and they were a threat to them immediately because they just came and they were a threat to them immediately. Wild.
Well, they lost. Well, they won. The Sheepherders won.
Right.
And that's the other big key to it too, because they came in, they talked them up on commentary, and then they beat the tag champs. And then Adonis and Star incensed because they're like, oh, we underestimated them. We won't let that happen again. We want them again. We want you guys again next week. And then the Sheepherders win the titles from them the next week. Yeah. So they not only hype them up as a big deal, they then put them over the tag champs 2 weeks in a row.
Right.
And then,
again, commentary pointed that out too. They said, wow, we didn't know who these guys were and we didn't know what they were capable of, but they came in the first week we ever saw them and beat our tag champions in the main event. And now here they are again in a main event, back-to-back weeks, and now they're going for the titles. And then when they win the titles, they go, wow, look, these guys came in and they're running ruckshaw over the Portland territory. Unbelievable.
So, their big feud in Portland was a little later with Piper and Martel. That was the big feud that really put them on the map. And I would guess is what really got them booked everywhere, because then they literally went everywhere. Whether it was they would go to Puerto Rico, probably at least a half a dozen different runs in Puerto Rico throughout their career. First time around 80 or 81, they would go to they went to Crockett, and then what happens is Butch Miller gets homesick and he wants to move back home. So in 81, he moves back to New Zealand and then is based out of New Zealand and Australia. And he is replaced in the team by Lord Jonathan Boyd. So now it's Lord Jonathan Boyd and Luke Williams. And then they continue marching through the territories. They go to Memphis. They go to what later would become known as Continental, which at that time was probably fucking Southeastern or something like that. This is where they first run into teams like the Fabulous Ones, and they have, and they have some of their, early legendary feuds, but this is the Lord Jonathan Boyd, Luke Williams version. And eventually they end up in the Joe Blanchard territory in San Antonio, in Southwest. And this is right around the time where Joe Blanchard has TV on USA Network, because remember, he was buying TV. He was paying weekly to air. He was on national TV airing on USA. And this was, that San Antonio territory was a wild territory. They were about 10 years ahead of their time. What you would call hardcore wrestling today. Lots of blood, lots of brawling, which fit the Sheepherder gimmick to a T. And, they won the tag titles, but then Boyd broke his leg. And when Jonathan Boyd broke his leg, Williams called Miller, and Butch Miller came back to America and replaced Jonathan Boyd, and the original Sheepherders were back together. So Blanchard loses his TV to McMahon. He couldn't afford to pay the weekly fee, and just business wasn't good. So USA went with McMahon. The rest of that's history. They're still on USA to this day. I guess they took a short break when they went to Spike or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Raw,
right.
But the point here is, that was the genesis of Vince McMahon and his business relationship with USA. He actually replaced, Joe Blanchard. And so Williams and Miller, they stuck around, but then Southwest was kind of dying. So, of course, where do they go? They go back to Puerto Rico, which was kind of their safety net. They were always because, again, Rich, what was the style in Puerto Rico?
Oh, just brawls, wild brawls, blood, and yeah, just exactly
perfect for them.
Perfect for them, yeah. And there's a great playlist that I think you put up in our Discord that I've been watching all day, and every one of their Puerto Rico matches is like bell rings, a few little exchanges of holds, and then like you look down and then you look up and everyone's on the outside and everyone's bleeding and the fans are just going nuts. And it's just like, yep, that's perfect. That's exactly what. And these guys, like, they're not. I wouldn't call them super workers by any means. Like they're certainly not. But there's a style that they have, and it's a frenetic pace style too. They're not slow. They're not slow. They're wild and chaotic brawls pretty much every one of the matches they have in that entire playlist, which I think is like 49 matches deep. I mean, it was supremely entertaining, and it's a lot of matches I've seen for the first time ever.
They're classic 80s brawling heels. I mean, there's an aura to them and they feel dangerous, right? And it's like they're just ass kickers, and they're not there to put on a top wrist lock. Okay, they're there to carve you up and beat you up. And, they're supposed to be intimidating, and they come into these territories and they immediately mix it up with, the baby face, quote unquote, blowjob tag teams. And they make them work a different style, and it works. So while they're in Puerto Rico on one of their runs, Jonathan Boyd returns from his broken leg and he starts teaming with Rip Morgan. Now, Rip Morgan is the shoot nephew of Butch Miller, and was always associated with the act because depending on what territory, sometimes he would come in with them to certain territories and be the flag bearer.
Right.
Because like, you know anything about the
quite
Sheepherders.
Quite literally the flag bearer, in case you're wondering. The guy who would come out with the New Zealand flag and wave it. Yes.
Yeah. So they would always have a flag bearer. Sometimes it was Johnny Ace later on in later years. But, Rip Morgan was one of their flag bearers who certain territories would bring them in as a whole act. So what Boyd did was he's like, all right, well, Miller and Williams are in Puerto Rico. I'm going to form another version of the team with Rip Morgan. And it's not like they were a rip-off version or a copycat version because they were real sheepherders. Like Boyd was a legitimate member and Morgan was a legitimate member of the act. So what you had there for a couple of years in the mid-'80s was the original sheepherders working in Puerto Rico. And then you had another version of the Sheepherders, Jonathan Boyd and Rip Morgan, working all the territories in the U.S. So there were two versions of the Sheepherders running around, carving everybody up, for like 2 years. And this is where this was feud number one with the Fantastics, because this is the Boyd Morgan version had their first run in and feud with the Fantastics, I believe in Memphis. You can fact check me on that, but I think that was in Memphis. And then because the Fantastics hadn't formed until probably 85, late 84, 85 maybe. But they had feuded with the Fabulous Ones, and then that was feud number one with the Fantastics. And then in 86, of course, because we talked about this earlier, Williams and Miller come back to the United States, and they immediately go to work for Bill Watts, which by that time I think was already UW. I don't think it was Mid-South anymore. I think it was already UWF.
86 is UWF. Yeah, 86 is UWF.
Yeah, so they're working for Watts, and they win the tag team titles, and that's where they have the second feud with the Fantastics, this time against Williams and Miller. And this is the famous Sheepherders Fantastics feud that everybody talks about. And we reviewed a bunch of those matches on that deep dive. You remember those barbed wire cage matches?
Oh yeah, they fucking rock. Yeah, and the matches. Yeah. If you've never seen those, I mean, they're such chaotic brawls that the two teams just start ripping the cage apart to hit each other with the cage. It's like how insane it gets, and like the crowds are just molten hot for the Fantastics. It's awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. And in the midst of that too, one of the all-time great tag matches of the 80s is the Crockett Cup comes in. I don't know if you were going to get to that in a sec, but that's in the midst of that as they go, participate in the Jim Crockett Promotions, Crockett Cup. And then the main event is the Fantastics versus the Sheepherders in the quarterfinals, I should say. It's a double DQ to kind of get them both out of the tournament, but that's a fantastic match. I believe 5 stars from Dave, if I'm not.
Yes.
Am I mistaken? Is that the 5-star one?
Nope, that's the one. That's the famous 5-star match that the Bushwhackers had from Dave Meltzer, which everybody talks about. But it's like, because oh my God, the Bushwhackers had because the big thing for many years was the Bushwhackers have a 5-star match and Bryan Danielson does not.
Right.
It's not true anymore, but that was the case for many years. But people, if you look, that match is on YouTube, but clipped. And I'm not even positive I've ever seen a complete version. I don't know if the version on the network is complete either.
I think it's heavily clipped. No, it's heavily clipped if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because that Crockett Cup show on the network, I believe, comes right off the home video, which is all clipped, all throughout. But I can't remember if I've ever seen but look, if you watch that match now, is it going to look like a 5-star match in 2023? It's not. Okay, it's not. But it was 1986, and it was, a stark dichotomy from the kind of matches the Fantastics were having with teams like the Midnight Express and that, and it was very impressive that the Fantastics were able. And now look, this was all while they were having these wild brawls in all of these gimmick matches in Mid-South against the Sheepherders. This was an ongoing feud, but yeah, that's a very infamous Dave Meltzer 5-star match. That match from the Crockett Cup, which, quite honestly, is probably it's without a doubt the most famous Sheepherders match. There's no doubt about that. Is it the famous and most well-known Fantastics match? That might be more debatable because you could probably there's a couple contenders against the Midnight.
Yeah, I wouldn't. No, I would say some of those Midnights.
Clash of Champions.
Yeah. Those Midnight matches are probably a bigger deal.
But a very famous match from the era nonetheless, and a match that I think, did it make Kevin Hare and Robin Reed's 100? That
the Wrestling 101.
Remember.
I don't know, and I don't know that we've fully listed off the rest of the let me double check.
Message those guys and see if they'll answer us before the end of the show. I'm curious if they picked that match.
I think I might have access to the master list. I'm not supposed to reveal it, but I could try here. So, no, and the other thing too about going back, and if you want to watch some of these matches, you might be thinking, it's like 80s wrestling or whatever. And just trust me, if you don't know anything about 80s wrestling, you're listening to this and you're a relatively newer fan, I'm telling you, these matches are so action packed. Like, find any of these Fantastics versus Sheepherders matches. I've watched a couple of them. We watched a bunch of them for our UWF deep dive, which I'll link in the show description. They're there. Or you just go on YouTube and look up Fantastic versus the Sheepherders. A myth about old wrestling or how wrestling was supposed to be or whatever. You always talk about WWE myths and how they just kind of created a myth of what wrestling was and what good wrestling is and what wrestling was and should be and all that sort of stuff. The bell rings and these matches are 16 minutes long and they don't fucking stop. These guys are beating on each other, running, drop kicking, punching, kicking, throwing each other. Every second of those 16 minutes is filled up. There's nobody putting anybody in a side headlock and rearing it in or whatever. That's not what wrestling is. Like, somewhere along the line, we decided that's what wrestling was. And then people think that classic wrestling is that. No. These guys, the bell rings, and these guys are fucking balls to the wall from the moment it starts to the moment it ends. And it's the Sheepherders. So it's like, no, they're not out there doing Vikingo Commander stuff, but they're kicking and they're punching or they're tagging or they're doing something. Every second of those matches between the Fantastics, something is happening. Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers are either tagging, drop kicking, or getting punched or getting kicked or whatever, but something is happening in every single second of those matches. And the crowds are going fucking wild the entire time. I cannot recommend them enough. If you're listening to this and you've never seen any of those Fantastic Sheepherders matches, and you really can't go wrong, honestly. Go watch one of them. Whatever ones you can find, watch them, because you will be stunned and blown away by just how good the work is. I really do think they hold up. And like you said, do they hold up to 2023 standards? I kind of think they do. Like, I watched a bunch of them today, and I think they're still really fucking great. I think they're tremendous matches.
Yeah, so they lose the feud to the Fantastics. They leave the territory, Mid-South, and then they bounce around. They go back to Memphis. I'm sure they went back to Puerto Rico around this time.
So I can tell
Florida,
you, sorry, not to butt in. The Midnights and the Fantastics were in the Clash of the 80s that we did release already, Wrestling 101, the Wrestling101.com, if you want to listen to those, voiceswrestling.com, or read those. At voiceswrestling.com. So the Midnights and the Fantastics did make it. That was a series that were released a couple of months ago. Clashes of the 80s.
Well, that one I knew would be in it. I'm just curious if the Sheepherders versus the Fantastics.
Yeah, it does not look like it
Crockett Cup made it.
Yeah, it is not.
I didn't think it did either. So then they bounced around, various territories, and then went back to the UWF in '87. So they lost a few to the Fantastics, and now this was classic, territory stuff where you would lose a feud and then there's nothing left to do, right? So you disappear for a while. You go to other places and you start fresh, and then you come back a year later and then, you feel fresh in that territory again. So they had another run through the UWF in the dying days, and I believe they were there for the purchase, which is how they ended up with WCW.
Yes,
because
exactly.
They were a part of the... Yeah. So they come in with, Rick Steiner and Terry Taylor and Eddie Gilbert and Steve Williams and whoever else was still of maybe like Brad Armstrong, probably, maybe even Tim Horner, people like that, who were with Mid-South, who were with the UWF when Watts sold to WCW, and they brought in, those guys. They didn't really take advantage, like most promoters don't, of any kind of interpromotional or invasion sort of thing. But all those guys did come in, and they got integrated into the roster, and the Sheepherders were among them. And this is where they were about to have their, like we talked about at the top, their third feud with the Fantastics, which they had started but never, because they left in the middle of the tournament and everything. And that's kind of where we picked up the segment, because, they jump in December of 88, November or December of 88 to the WWF, and then do the Bushwhacker thing to close out the twilight of their careers. And it's interesting to me. I'm curious who came up with the Bushwhacker gimmick, because these guys never worked babyface, and who would have thought that they could have been a big hit with children and doing a complete, 180 on what they've been doing for nearly 4 decades. These guys
across the world too, not just in like a one territory, like across the fucking world. These guys were bloodthirsty, snarling, disgusting guys that were just like, I mean, look at them. Like, especially looking at, like, you see them. I remember as a kid seeing those guys. I'm like, oh my God, like they're just grotesque humans. Like they're just spitting and snarling. Their foreheads are all caved in and stuff. And it's like, here, lick my child. And like adult people being like, here's my baby, lick their forehead. And then people did. And they were over as fuck. They were huge. I don't know that. I'll say, I mean, what a wild idea to have them do that. I don't know if it was just a challenge or they wanted to. No idea if that was Vince or them themselves that just decided to do it, but holy shit. And then it worked. It worked great. Like it was not great in terms of in ring. Like there's nothing that I could say as a highlight from the Bushwhackers run in the WWF, but like we always say, I mean, they made more money than they ever made, during that time. So, good to them. And they didn't have to mutilate their bodies anymore. They could go out there and do their little arm thing and come out and have basic ass matches and go on promos, and they were fine. And that's all they had to do, and make a shit ton of money. So good for them. And they were able to keep that going for, like you said, like almost like 15 years, basically. They were able to survive in the WWF. So, or at least, roughly 10 years, maybe right around 10 years, but
close to the 10.
Yeah, closer to 10. But man, like
which in those days is a super long run.
Right.
Now these guys stay there for 10, 15 years routinely. But back then, these guys would come in, stay a year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years, and then they'd be out. And you remember them as iconic Hall of Fame performers in that company. And, they were there for 3 years. It was very rare to stay like 8 years, 10 years, the way that these guys did. And they didn't really change their look at all. They came in with the same gear, the same look. They just completely changed their style. And I wonder if that was the Vince McMahon's idea, if that was Pat Patterson, if it was their own. I don't know how they came up with it, but it worked. Again, they never really got pushed very hard. I mean, they never advanced any higher than the mid card. I don't even remember them getting a lot of title matches.
Yeah, I was looking at that right now to see, as we were saying, if they ever
just would have probably been house shows or maybe Saturday night's main event level stuff. But
yeah, let me see if they have any TV.
Certainly not pay-per-views.
No. Yeah, it looks like on total they had a title match against the Nasty Boys in 1991 for the tag titles on Saturday night's main event. On an episode of Primetime, they had a title shot at Money Inc. And then in 1994, they had a shot at... that was a tournament. They lost in the tournament to the Heavenly Bodies. And then they were also in a tournament and lost to the Body Donnas for the tag team. So essentially, they had, almost an 8 or 9 year run. Had 2 tag title shots on TV ever. Money Inc. and Nasty Boys, and that was it.
They would lose all the push teams. And when they would beat teams, you knew it was trouble for those teams. Like they were on their way out or working their way down the card. And they would feud with the other prelim level teams. Like I know they had a feud with like Well Done, towards the end of their run, which was just a total prelim level feud. You know what I mean? Like they'd feud with teams like that. but they were a constant presence, and they were there for some lean years. But even during those lean WWF years, that was still the place where you were going to make the most money. But they came in at the end of the Hulkamania era, so I'm sure they made some big money in 89, 90. At the tail end of the fumes of the end of the Hulkamania era. So, and that was really it for, they worked some indies, and then, a lot of people might not remember this, but they had that really short run in ECW around 1998 or 1999, where they were, it was like a comedy deal where they were like part of the Dudleys. And then that was really it for Butch. I mean, he wrapped it up a few years after that, and Luke kept going, and Luke is still going to this day. And then Luke, what's interesting about Luke Williams is he had that very short run with ECW, and then he had a run with Ring of Honor. Like in 2008, 2009, he worked maybe just a handful of comedy matches with like Grizzly Redwood and people like that. But, he would work prelims. I know he worked a prelim match at WrestleMania Weekend in Houston in 2009 because I was at that show. But he would be at all of the shows, even if he didn't wrestle. He would sign autographs. He would do like the Goodwill Ambassador deal because he was friends with Carrie Silken. So that was the connection there. So he would always be around Ring of Honor in the late aughts, 08, 09, maybe into 2010. So when you look at it, what's crazy is Luke Williams is one of the handful of people who worked for ECW and Ring of Honor, right? You think of Raven immediately, right? And then, there's Luke Williams, and then there's really, believe it or not, you'd think there'd be a lot more.
Fewer. Yeah, it's a lot fewer than you probably think it is.
Maybe Tony Mamaluke, right? Like he'd be another one. And they're like not obvious ones. They're like,
yeah, it's a lot of like prelim tag guys, maybe in like the late stages, like the 2000 ECW, like those sort of guys. But yeah, it's not the top tier guys that you think, oh yeah, probably that guy. It probably not. Probably the guy you're thinking of is not there because they were either picked up by WWE or they just never, made it past, after that. But Carino would obviously be would be an obvious one. But yeah, it's not as many as you might think it is.
Yeah, and what's bizarre about it is Luke of the Bushwhackers is one of them. Right. That's like if there was a Sporkle quiz, that's the one nobody gets, right? Like why would you even think about like you would probably, a lot of people probably don't know he worked for either of them.
Right, I wouldn't be able to get either probably before a couple weeks ago when I was doing research about it. So
let alone both, but yeah, and that was really it. And they won tag team titles in the vast majority of these territories. Like, let's see, they definitely won the UWF tag team titles. I'm sure they won the tag titles in Puerto Rico a million times. Stampede, I know. I'm sure they won the titles. Oh, definitely for Blanchard for 100%. The Boyd version, Boyd and Williams in for Joe Blanchard. So, and obviously for Don Owen, because that they came in and immediately won the titles from Adonis and Starr. So, and then traded the titles with Piper and Martel a million times. So, basically everywhere they went, they would come in. They'd be these brawling heels. They would win the tag titles. They'd work a program with whoever your good looking babyface tag team was, the Fabulous Ones, the Fantastics. You go right down the line, and then they'd eventually lose the feud and they'd move on. And that was the beauty of the territories, right? That was the beauty.
Right. Next town to do the next thing, the exact same thing over and over and over again. And it didn't matter because that crowd did not know that you just did that in San Antonio. You know what I mean? They didn't know that you just did the exact same thing in San Antonio, come to town and bloody up our babyface blowjob tag team or whatever. But they could do that in every single town over and over and over again and draw a shit ton of money every single time.
Yeah. So, and I just think it's so great that while one version was in Puerto Rico, another version was in the mainland U.S. and they were both working concurrently, doing the same gimmick at the same time, and that was really brilliant. With the blessing, like there was no, like, they weren't ripoffs. It was with the blessing of Miller and Williams. It wasn't like Boyd and Morgan were just, it was some rogue act, It was very much like Giant Kimala 2, Ben Peacock, where the original Kamala knew full well that the guy was doing that, and he was okay with it. You know what I mean? It's not like there was heat there. It's like, all right, well, if you're going to stay in Japan, like, how does that affect me in the United States working all these territories? You do your thing, you know, and when I pop up for Baba, we can team together. And, you know, that was my match of the week before, you know, the two giant Kamalas teaming together with Abdullah the Butcher, you know, and, you know, so it's not like this was a contentious thing either. These guys were all sheepherders, you know, they were all a part of the act, you know, throughout the years. But, yeah, I would just say I'm going to do that thing that people have done for years. If you only know them as the Bushwhackers, which I'm sure a lot of people do, it's well worth your time to dig in a little and check out the match of the week this week and let that be your guide, and then watch all the Portland stuff. And then if you're on our Discord, you know, I linked that great YouTube playlist that has just stuff from everywhere, Memphis and tons of stuff from Puerto Rico and all the territories we just talked about. And this really was a team that, you know, the Bushwhacker thing was kind of a second life, and, you know, good for them for working half as hard. And
There's several guys in WWE history, and we talked about it with Coco Beware all the time. That, like, that's a dude who, if you only knew him from WWF, you know him as the guy with the bird or whatever. But it's like, dude, this guy's a fucking incredible worker. But, like, yeah, he made a lot of money by dancing around and carrying a bird. And it's like, all right, you know, you can't knock the hustle. That's a great way to make money. And yeah, the Bushwhackers made a shit ton of money, you know, moving their arms back and forth and making funny noises and licking people. Hey, good for them, man. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely good for them. But it does kind of, unfortunately, a lot of people just know them as those guys and might look at you funny if you're like, no, these guys were like great workers. I promise. You got to go back and watch that stuff. And there's plenty, like, that YouTube playlist is perfect. But you can honestly just look up the Sheepherders, you know, versus whoever. And like you said, maybe start with the match of the week as your guide on you know, it's on our Discord and also patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling. Start there and then just kind of, bounce around everywhere. Hey, go to the deep dive. Like we said, the UWF Tag Team Title Deep Dive if you want to see some of those fantastics matches as well. But yeah, just watch stuff. I mean, just you'll gain a whole new appreciation for those guys and what they were able to do. And honestly, it makes me appreciate them a little bit more as the Bushwhackers, because it's like, oh, these guys worked their asses off to get to the point where they could, you know, slack off and make a ton of money. So good for them.
People in our chat are talking about the awful Conan Ring of Honor appearance.
I forgot, because they brought him up as an ECW. I forgot that he was I know it, but then I always forget, and then it just struck my memory again that I was like, oh my god, yeah, that was so terrible.
Got booed out of the building. There was basically, to me, there's three fairly infamous attempts in early Ring of Honor to bring guys in who were big names who just bombed. Conan was one. Jeff Hardy,
Will-O the Wisp, Jeff Hardy. Yeah, that's
and Christian.
Oh yeah, yes, that was a disaster.
He just didn't understand the style. Like, I don't think he knew what he was getting into. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't understand that this was like peak work rate geek era of the indies, and he just didn't bring it. And, you know, Jeff Hardy was a mess, and, you know, Conan, as they're talking about in the chat, was just all blown up, and he just fucking sucked, and they booed him out of the building. Wasn't Conan the one who, like, apologized on the mic like right after the match?
I forget. Like, I thought that was Christian that apologized. You might be Conan. Right. Yeah, you might be right. I don't remember now.
I think when Christian has talked about it, and he said, look, I just didn't know what I was getting into. It didn't work, and I never went back. He's like, you know what I mean? Like, he could have done the style. Like, I just don't think I think he just thought he was taking an indie date, you know? And
right. They just wanted to see him get his shit in and do the Christian stuff. And it was like, no, brother, we want to see you work. Like, let's see if you can. And same thing with Jeff Hardy, too. He was like, I'm going to debut this Will-O the Wisp character. Everyone's just like, fuck off. Yeah, I love early Ring of Honor, man. That's my favorite thing ever, to see these guys like waltz in and think, I'm gonna own this place, and these people just boo them out of the fucking building. Get out of here, go away, you're not good enough for us. I love that shit, that gatekeepy stuff. That early Ring of Honor was so cool for that too. I loved it.
Yeah,
you're not gonna bring it, like, fuck off, go away. We don't care who you are or what you did before. You know what I mean? We got Bryan Danielson, motherfucker. You know, prove it, you belong here. I love it.
And the indies are so completely different now, because now, the modern indie fan doesn't give a shit about that kind of thing anymore. You know, like you could show up for a clusterfuck at spring break, and as long as you can still walk, you're going to get a pop. You know, like it's
yeah.
You know, I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm just saying it's just completely different vibes when you go to these indie shows, because it's just you know, completely different expectations. I'm looking up Luke's ROH stuff, and yeah, it was like pre-show matches against people like Shane Hagedorn. And,
I'm pretty sure I saw him team against team with Grizzly Redwood. I don't know if I just watched that on DVD or I was there live, but
no, here we go. Did you go to Collinsville, Illinois?
No, I didn't go. No, that's way too far for me. So I must have just seen it.
All right, let me see if I can find. Let me pull up.
I may have just seen the DVD now.
I think he saw a DVD. He didn't come to Chicago, but yeah, he came to. He worked the whole Supercard of Honor weekend in 2009 in Houston. It was Bushwhacker Luke and Grizzly Redwood versus Dirty Andy Dalton and Don Juan in a pre-show match, and then because those Texas guys, you know, put the ring together and shit, so they gave him a pre-show match, and then Rhett Titus, and then he wrestled Rhett Titus the next night, and Kamala worked those shows for Ring of Honor. Remember when they?
Yeah, I do.
So they brought in Bushwhack because Kamala did the whole. Did he do the deal? No, that wasn't the Bryan Danielson match. That was in a different city. But I don't even know if Kamala worked a match, but he was there and he did like an angle, I think, in Houston for ROH. I do remember that. And then that was the show where the fire alarm went off, and in the middle of the show, and nobody was sure whether we should leave or stay there and die.
Yeah, you and Chico Alvarez having your discussion.
That's where I met Brian Alvarez. That's right. And we all decided just to, well, it's probably a false alarm. Let's roll the dice. And we all stayed.
Only in a wrestling show would people go, like I'll take my chances. It seems like it's probably fake. I'll just stay and watch, you know, this Ring of Honor show and put my life in danger because
the wrestlers too. Like the guys in the ring were kind of like, and then they kind of just shrugged their shoulders and kept working.
Just chopping each other.
And that fucking thing was going off for like 20 minutes. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? And no, so we all kind of like wandered towards the exit, and then we were waiting to see, like, it's one of those things where it's like, who's gonna make the first move? Are people gonna leave or not? And no one did. And then we just all went back to our seats. And the top rope also snapped off during that show, and during a Chris Hero match, because I remember it was Chris Hero. Okay, so it was Chris Hero and Eddie Edwards with Incognito.
Now, nice.
Incognito, of course, is the second Sin Cara, the fucking Hunico. So it was Incognito, Chris Hero, and Eddie Edwards against Jay Briscoe, Kevin Steen, and Magno. Remember Magno?
I do.
So the fucking top rope snaps. And again, this is like, I don't know if this was before or after the fucking... It was before the fire drill, because that was during the Danielson match against Alex Kozlov, the fire, and that was a few matches later. So now these guys don't have a top rope, and then Chris Hero was just so tremendous in this match, like ad-libbing around the fact that they didn't have a top rope. And I do remember that. And I remember the crowd was, there was a large contingent of Lucha fans there, with their fucking like all that fucking
the vuvuzela, yeah.
Because Blue Demon Jr. was working those shows, if I recall correctly, and they were there to see their boy, you know, their Lucha guys and Blue Demon. And yeah, it was so it was a four-way: Claudio Castagnoli, Blue Demon Jr., Brent Albright, and El Generico in a four-corner match. Well, I'm looking at this fucking show, and we just the amount of talent.
Yeah, it's as you keep naming names, I'm like, yeah, that's an all-time great. Yeah, that's an all-time great. God damn it.
I know. Yeah, and you know, of course, that's the show with the Kenta Davey Richards match, which if they would have if the finish wasn't fucked up with the reverse go to sleep, it would have been one of the greatest matches. I was one of the greatest matches I ever saw. It had the Roderick Strong Katsuhiko Nakajima match. And I've told this story a million times, but probably not in a while. And then Nakajima, after that match, because he's still kind of in his young boy phase, you know, to some extent. And he came up into the bleachers and plopped his ass down right next to me to watch Kenta wrestle Davey Richards and study the match, which was kind of a mark out moment for me. And I didn't want to bother him because he was clearly like paying attention to Kenta's work. You know what I mean? But then after the match, when he got up, I introduced myself and shook his hand and everything. And my girlfriend at the time thought I was the biggest nerd of all time.
And she's not wrong, to be honest. So.
She was absolutely not wrong. Absolutely not wrong. But not TLB for you old school listeners. This predates TLB by a clean
several
decade.
Years. Yeah,
okay?
Several years.
So we're talking a decade. But yeah, no, the amount of talent on that show was absurd. But yeah, Bushwhacker Luke on that show against Dirty Andy Dalton. How about that?
Yeah, wow. What a match.
It's funny how those things work out. But you have anything else on the passing of Butch Miller?
I don't. Yeah, I'll just implore people. It is not hard to find stuff from them. So make it your mission this weekend. If nothing else from this segment that we just did, know that these guys had a much, much, much larger career than the Bushwhackers. And if you've never seen anything non-Bushwhackers, hell, maybe you've never even seen the Bushwhackers. Go watch some Sheepherder stuff. Sheepherder's fantastic. Like I said, you cannot go wrong. Watch anything from that playlist. You can't go wrong. Watch the match of the week this week at flagshippatreon.com. You can't go wrong that way either. But yeah, just your goal this weekend, watch some Sheepherders and really understand, what these guys were and why they are so well renowned and so well known around the world for the work they did. So. All right, let us get to, WWE. It's official. Endeavor and WWE announced they have signed an agreement to form a new public company consisting of a now merged UFC and WWE. I love how we're getting to that an hour and 30 minutes into this show. One of the most titanic moments and news stories in professional wrestling history, in the business of combat sports. It is here, and it just kind of doesn't feel like it's real to a lot of people. But yeah, it's happening.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not blowing through the death of Butch Miller.
Yeah, exactly.
He wrestled for 50 fucking years. Okay? We can take people through the career of a guy like that, and hopefully there's some people who learned a little something. You know what I mean? I enjoy doing that, and I think that that's important because I'm not going to say the show, but I saw a recap of another wrestling podcast where, they kind of just, blew through it and they said they knew nothing of their careers before WWE. It's like, that's fine. They have their own audience. They do what they do. I'm not even necessarily knocking it, but it doesn't feel right, and look, look, there's times where people pass away and we don't know a lot about them. So we don't insult the audience by faking our way through an obituary. So again, I'm not necessarily knocking it, but I feel like if you know about someone's career and you can talk intelligently about it and you can maybe help people learn a little something about a guy's career who got in a ring for 50 years and, put his health and his life on the line to entertain you, then I think is it the way?
We owe
him
45 minutes.
Like that
yeah,
20 minutes?
We can owe the guy 40 minutes. It's no problem.
I mean, geez, so it's we got the rest of this fucking show and the rest of our fucking lives to talk about Vince McMahon worming his way back into this company. So, I'm okay in a circumstance like this, not getting to this for 90 minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. But so he said that a new public company consisting of a merged UFC and WWE. TKO will be their public, when they're publicly traded, will be their acronym, but we do not have a name for the company itself.
Wait, hold on a second. They're calling themselves TKO? I didn't even know that.
No. Just that's what on the stock exchange, it's going to be called TKO. I don't know if that's actually going to be the name of the company. But if you're going to buy TKO cool stock, it's not a bad name for the company. If they end up coming up with that, that's probably not the worst one to come up with. But yeah, as of right now, that is just if you're going to buy stock in them, it'll be be called TKO. But yeah, they haven't actually come up with an official name yet. But you're right, TKO wouldn't be a bad name for him. So Endeavor will hold a 51% controlling interest in the new company, and existing WWE shareholders will have a 49% interest in this new company. Ari Emanuel, who is the Endeavor CEO, says, quote, "This is a rare opportunity to create a global live sports and entertainment pure play built for where the industry is headed. For decades, Vince and his team have demonstrated an incredible track record of innovation and shareholder value creation." Oh, Joe, if there's one thing I've loved about WWE lately, it's their shareholder value creation. I know you and me can agree with that. I mean, love him or hate him, lot of shareholder value creation. So you got to hand it to the guys for sure. But anyway, we are confident that Endeavor can deliver significant additional value for shareholders by bringing UFC and WWE together.
Well, it's a $19 billion company, right?
Yep.
Because what is it? UFC is worth a little over 12 billion, and WWE was valued at 7-point-something billion. And what was the purchase price? 9 billion or something? I think
9.
Like that?
I think 9 was the and it's a weird. It's so people might, and there's better places to probably do this. We're not going to get into details here. It's like if people are like, well, they didn't purchase it. It was like they didn't take on debt. And yeah, okay, we're not going to get into the weeds about that and that sort of business value stuff. So it was.
That's not important to our listeners anyway.
No. If you want more, you can. It's all publicly available. You can all find it of what the transaction was and how the transaction was made and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, essentially, you're right. Yeah, they roughly a $9 billion transaction.
And Vince McMahon has instantly more than doubled his wealth on the back of this deal. And, he found a soft landing spot because, first of all, get to know Ari Emanuel because he's now instantly the most powerful person in pro wrestling.
Yep.
Okay. So more powerful than Vince because he's Vince's boss. And,
he's the head. He will remain. He's the CEO of this new company and he'll be the CEO of Endeavor as well. The overseer of the entire thing.
That's right. But he's a Vince ally. And this is why, Vince was always going to sell to an ally, to someone who was going to keep him in power. And he couldn't have given a stronger vote of confidence to Vince when they spoke together in that little interview they did. Where he said he wouldn't have made this deal unless Vince agreed to stay. Vince being pretend humble. Because, Vince had always said, if it's right for the shareholders and it's right for the company, I'll go away.
Yeah, sure.
Which was always just nonsense, lip service, garbage. He didn't mean that. He was going to find us somewhere where they were going to keep him in power. And Ari Emanuel is going to keep him in power. And he wants Vince in charge. And this is the same interview where Vince said, of course, I'm going to be looking at the big picture part of creative, but you won't find me in the weeds. I'm paraphrasing, and we all know Vince is going to take total. He already has taken. Control of creative.
He already did on this one, and he's going to be running the show on Friday. If you saw those reports, he's not sure if he's going to be there live or on Zoom, but he's going to be running the show on Friday as well. So
that's right, and he absolutely will be in the weeds. So. If anything, he has less on his plate above creative because he's now, part of this conglomerate, and it'll give him more time, arguably, to deal with which is really what he wants. That's his baby. So, and beneath and then you have Dana White, the president of UFC, and Nick Khan, his new title, or maybe it's the same title, but his new title in this company is president of the WWE. So I don't know. I guess Vince would be on the same level as Dana White, but Dana White has the same title as Nick Khan.
Yeah. So Nick Khan and Dana White. If you look at the hierarchy, so you have Ari Emanuel, obviously, who's on top. He's the main CEO of Endeavor, the main CEO of all these things. Vince McMahon is right under him as executive chairman of the board. So he's not number one, but he's executive chairman of the board of the whole conglomerate of the UFC, WWE conglomerate. Which is that's a weird thing that I don't know that we have. Like, is Vince McMahon going to have any say in like UFC business and stuff like he had, right?
Well, I don't think he's going to stick his beak in, but I mean, technically he has a title in the company, whereas
right, where he could.
Dana White is specifically the president of UFC and Nick Khan is specifically the president.
Like Dana White, the way the corporate hierarchy is structured, Dana White can't say, hey, you guys should do this. He has no authority or anything to do that, whereas Nick Khan also can't say, hey, this is what you guys should do in UFC. Like, sure, they bounce ideas off, but like there's no, one's the president of the UFC, one's president of WWE, but Vince is kind of over both in a weird way, but it might just be a way to placate him, give him that role, but essentially we know, I would guess that Vince is probably just going to say, hey, Dana, do your thing, I just want to be in charge of WWE. That's my baby.
I genuinely don't think he's going to stick his beak in, Yeah, that's not going to happen. And Mark Shapiro, of course. We talked about Mark Shapiro.
Mark Shapiro is the president and chief operating officer, so he's just under Vince, or kind of on a relatively similar level as Vince, overseeing both of the companies. And he's a long time media executive. If you do not know about Mark Shapiro, I mean, long time at ESPN, did a bunch of stuff. I mean, he was a big part of ESPN's kind of, I don't know what you would call it.
They're rebranding about 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, like the early 2000s or so. Yeah, did a bunch of new original programming. Was able to kind of get them the rights to Monday Night Football and the NBA. Did like the drama series as well. I think like Playmakers and those sort of things, and Bronx is Burning and a few of these other things that he was kind of in charge of doing. So yeah, he was a big time guy at ESPN for a lot of their years.
Not to be confused with the former GM of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yes, yeah, which I also every time I hear the name, I'm like, "Whoa, that guy really?" No, he's Mark Shapiro is not.
So
not the same guy.
these are two different guys, but yeah. So and don't overlook the idea that Nick Khan also made out like a bandit here and is also about twice as wealthy as he was before with his new position. And everybody's, with the purchase, everyone, got a giant sum of money with that and everything. So this worked out for everyone involved, with the exception of Levesque. I mean, he's
$5 million richer though. I don't know if you saw that. They gave him
he gained some. Oh, of course,
they gave him a cool $5 million. But yeah, he's absolutely cucked in all the ways.
In terms of the power structure, he's.
I did not see Paul Levesque on the board. I'm looking up and down the board of this brand new company, and Joe, I got to tell you, I do not see Paul Levesque anywhere here. So unfortunately, I don't know what happened there, but sorry.
Yeah, it's like Meltzer says, he's essentially Bruce Pritchard now. He's just a guy.
Yeah.
Technically he's his boss and everything.
Dude,
but,
15 years ago, this guy thought he was just waltzing into owning this company. You know what I mean? Like the second. Pops is done. It's our company, babe. Him and Stephanie. Now Stephanie's gone, and AAA, it's been sold, and AAA, yeah, it's just, yeah, it's not at all what I'm sure he envisioned 20 years ago, and now he's just a pan. He's just a pawn. You know what I mean? He's just kind of there, along for the ride.
Yeah. So, where do you want to take this conversation? Because it feels like. We kind of covered a lot of it at the top. Vince is going to slowly usurp all of the creative power, essentially. And it's funny because they trotted out Levesque on Raw, and they're doing the same thing tomorrow on SmackDown.
At what point do you have to have pride, right? I know he's $5 million richer, and I know that this is the company he's always wanted to be a part of. But like, at what point do you have to have pride in your own life? And say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going out there and saying, WWE Universe. Despite all the things, I am, nothing is going to change. Your WWE will remain the same. At one point, and then he's going to go back and Vince is going to rip the headset off his fucking head and go, give me that. Like, at what point?
Yeah.
Do you have to have a little pride? A little pride in your life. Come on, man.
Well, and they're going to make him do it again.
I know, again. It's the same thing.
And it's like, and the reason they're doing that, again, listeners of our show know, if you're new to the show, we've been saying this for months. This is why whenever there were any reports or rumors or talk of Vince gaining any creative power whatsoever, any creative influence whatsoever, WWE and their PR was very, very quick to dispute that and put out those fires and get the word out through their friendly media channels and everything else that was not true, and that Paul Levesque is firmly in control of creative, and that Vince is there just visiting friends, and that Vince never wore a headset, and Vince has a mustache. Let's focus on that. And that's the same reason they're trotting Levesque out on TV, because for a variety of reasons. Number one, the hardcore WWE fan base trusts Levesque. They do not like McMahon. They associate Vince with the shitty product of the previous 5 years or so, where it was very clear that Vince had lost his touch and was producing awful television. And they associate Paul Levesque with this great resurgent period of the last 8 months. And the thing we always talk about, if it's good, it's Levesque. If it's bad, it must be Vince, right? So it's very important from a identity standpoint, from a public relations standpoint, to make people think that Paul Levesque is still the guy running the creative. so that their fans do not panic. And really, they want Paul Levesque to be the public face because he's not the one that paid $20 million in hush fund money for the various sexual assaults. So there's a million different reasons that they want people to think that Levesque is still the one in control of the product. Okay? It's consumer confidence. It's their fan base. It's a million different reasons. So that's why they trotted him out on Monday. That's why they're trotting him out on Friday. And that's why every time anybody was like, oh, I don't know, guys, I think Vince has more control now, their PR team got to work and started sending emails to all the media
report
outlets.
Would come out that talent are afraid that Vince is being more involved, that they've heard that Vince is more involved. And then 20 minutes later, whoa, we've heard from somebody close to the situation that Vince is not involved. Okay.
And we tried to tell you this, guys.
Yes.
We tried to tell you guys this for weeks and months that this was the game they were playing. And it wasn't because we just assumed it. It's because we knew. We know people that are in this game. So we tried to tell people that this is what was happening. And now it's still happening. This is all a game of PR with Levesque. And that's why they're trotting it back out there on Friday.
Which is funny, though, because they're publicly trotting out Vince McMahon at the same time. You know what I mean? Because Ari, now that the sale is done, now there's no reason to have the cloak over Vince at all. He's able to just, but they're weirdly, like, in the business world, they're not putting the cloak on Vince because Vince McMahon still has cachet as like a successful businessman and all that sort of stuff. But then into the public, to the rubes, to your Reddit, users, they're trotting out Triple H saying, no. This is the guy. He's running the day-to-day. Whereas if you're on CNBC,
everything will remain the same. That's the key part. Like they have to convince their viewers that it's all gonna stay the same. That's
but if those same viewers watch CNBC, where a different story is being told, and Vince McMahon he might be placated. I'll stay out of the weeds. But like they're essentially already saying this deal doesn't happen without Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon is the reason why this deal happened. All that sort of other stuff. So on one channel, in one world, one universe, Vince is the central focus of the company again because he's the reason this deal got done. And then the Rube fans that are turning in on Mondays and Fridays are going to have Paul Levesque say, this, your universe is the same. It's never going to change. Like that sort of stuff. And it's like, God, geez. So these fans have some fucking pride too. I mean, what are you doing? But I don't, whatever.
Yeah.
Fine.
So, I mean, that's the game they're playing here. No pun intended, with the game. But,
thanks for explaining, Joe. I had no idea where you were going with that, but thank you for.
I did it by accident, and then
but it kind of worked.
A little embarrassed, by honest. They'll do it again. He'll do the same promo to open up SmackDown on Friday, and then, but I don't know if it's necessarily working because I see a lot of their, hopelessly online hardcore fan base shitting their pants. They're not happy that Vince is back. Is it working for the rank and file SmackDown viewer that, doesn't have a Twitter account and doesn't care about wrestling outside of the 2 hours that they watch it on Fridays? I don't know. But that's the attempt because they're not dumb. They know the reputation that Vince had at the end and they know the reputation, the idea that they really did a great job convincing their fan base that this was a drastically better product. They really did a great job. What's funny is, and I guess we could transition to this, is I watched Raw, and it was one of the most critically panned Raws in years, maybe ever, both by critics and viewers, if you want to go by things like Cage Match, where it came in at below 1. It was like a 0.29.
Yeah, at a while it was trending as like the 4th worst wrestling show in history or whatever. I think it's moved up a little bit since then, but it was trending as one of the worst wrestling shows in history.
And while I understand why, and while I'm not going to argue it was a good show, it was, to me, better than the Levesque Raws because it wasn't boring. The Paul Levesque Raws, Rich, I know you're not locked into Raw. Painfully dull. Just dull as dirt. Nothing happening. 3 hours of nothing. And look,
like we said on our preview, we did a WrestleMania preview, and we were talking about the builds for all these matches. I mean, take Cody and Roman out of that. which, I mean, again, kind of qualifying that that's the biggest story or whatever, but they presented a number of other matches this weekend that weren't Cody and Roman, and the builds for them were fucking horrific. Like the women's build in particular were so awful that Charlotte and Rhea had to go out there and have absolutely kill themselves in a match to try to prove that they should have been in the main event because their build was such a disaster that it got bumped from the main event. The Usos, Owens, and Zayn thing was, I guess, fine, but that's still kind of in the same universe as the Cody Bloodline build.
Bloodline.
That's bloodline stuff. Like the Asuka Bianca, like we said, was hideous and
terrible. And
pretty much everything else on the show was the builds were awful. It's like, okay, I mean, supposedly this is like the great, booking period that we have going on here. And we talked about it too when you look at the Andre the Giant Battle Royal of who was on the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, pretty much the Paul Levesque Invitational Tournament, all the people that he brought back, all the big names that he brought back, this person and that person, they're all in there. They're all fucking around in a battle royal, or Johnny Gargano was on, Stand and Deliver. It's like, that's that's it. So yeah, with the exception of Cody and Roman and a few more minutes of wrestling every single week, it was. I'd fail to see what was that monumentally different and great about it. But what plays into that though, I think, Joe, like you said, is that the Band-Aid got fully ripped off on Monday, and that was just like a very much a classic Vince McMahon show. So people can look at a through line and say, okay, whatever we had before was definitely Paul, but now it's definitely Vince again because there was no wrestling. It was a bunch of talking. Shit was changing like crazy. Stuff didn't make sense. We're back. We're fully back with the Vince stuff. And I think had it eased in a little bit, people might not have maybe realized it quite as much, and they would have been able to put the wool over people's eyes a little bit longer. But it was like night and day, where Vince's Raw was very clearly Vince's Raw, and Levesque's Raws were, of the ones that I saw, I didn't find them, super entertaining, but it was a clear difference. Like you said, much more boring, a little bit longer matches, not really any stories being told, to this week's Raw, which was just chock full of different stories and new angles starting and talking and all these big segments and a lot less wrestling. So I get it. I get what people are coming from, but
yeah, I do too. Yeah. I mean, Levesque's Raws were boring but stable, and this Raw, capped off by a big angle at the end that didn't make any sense, because what's Brock Lesnar's motivation to attack Cody Rhodes? But what that angle was something that Levesque had never managed to capture, and it was exciting. I mean, I agree it made no sense, but I can't sit there and tell you that it didn't come across very exciting and very thrilling to watch Brock Lesnar beat the living shit out of Cody Rhodes on television. But at the expense of making any sense, right? Like, that's the trade-off. Vince's Raws were almost never boring. They were always bad. Like, they were almost always bad. But boring is not a word I would use. The Levesque Raws were almost always boring, but they were sensible and made sense, I guess. But like you said, most of the builds for WrestleMania stunk. This is a guy whose entire reputation has been built on one storyline, the Bloodline. That's it. A storyline he didn't start, and that he didn't even start the Sami Zayn thing started under Vince. And then at the end of the finish line, he beat both of the guys who got over thanks to the Bloodline storyline. He beats Sami Zayn in Montreal, and then we're told the rationale for that is, because Cody. All right, great. And then he beats Cody. Right. So you can't sit here and tell me this guy is some brilliant booker when, number one, the hottest storyline in the company is something he didn't start and then didn't finish properly.
Yeah, it and then definitely he goes did not stick the landing. Definitely did not stick the landing.
No, he didn't. He had two chances to stick it, and he fucking didn't either time. And then when he gets questioned on it in the presser, he goes, the story never ends. Well, yeah, we know. Obviously.
Yeah, we're aware. Yeah, we can tell. We can tell the story never ends because you have no fucking end. You have no end in sight. You have no idea what you're doing.
And now everybody, the few people defending this, are like, it's going to be Jey Uso. Well, you weren't saying that 4 months ago. And if you were, you're a geek. Because I'm sorry, Jey Uso is not some kind of major star.
No.
Okay? He's never going to get over
this
it.
This cope that I've dealt with, the things that I've seen of people trying to rationalize how having Cody Rhodes win in front of 68,000 people at WrestleMania is not the right time. Oh, what? When's the right time then? What?
And there is no right time.
Then there is no right time. There is no right time, and there's no right person to beat Roman then. If it's not that guy on that moment in that crowd, then there isn't. Then you have no earthly idea, and you're just kicking the can down the road and hoping that eventually at one point, I don't know. But Jey
right
Uso,
time
Solo Sikoa, Jey Uso, what are we doing? Come on.
And that might make more sense for the quote unquote. But here's the thing too. That doesn't even, how many times is Jey Uso going to get mad at Roman? And he
right, we're gonna go the
pledged his
fourth time.
allegiance.
We're gonna go the fourth time with Uso not being Us enough, and we're gonna decide if he's Us enough. I mean, come on.
And here's the
Laughable.
thing. Levesque himself said the story never ends. He doesn't have an end point. You're trying to convince yourself that they have some grand plan. They don't. He's admitting it. The story never ends.
Well,
what kind of booker plots out a story without a finish?
Not a good one. A bad booker is
not a good one.
Not a good one. Not a good one at all. Yeah, this should have been locked in. This should have been locked in months ago. And even if you had the detour of a Sami Zayn and you didn't want to rip that up because you had a plan, okay, I get it. Or you don't want to have Drew McIntyre get the win in Cardiff, okay, because you got a plan. And we talked about that on Sunday. Okay, but you've had at the very least one chance before with Sami, like a one stone cold lock chance that would have worked and would have been fine with the Sami Zayn in Montreal. If you want to add Drew to there, you can. I didn't feel as strong about the Drew one, but whatever. If you want to make the Drew one, you can add that one in too. I've seen people add that in. I'll add the Sami one in as for sure. You have had two golden opportunities to do this, and you fucked them both up. Like, I'm sorry. And people can say, oh, well, you could do it at SummerSlam, or you could do it at this, or you could do it at that. Wrestling history is littered with examples of promoters thinking that they could wait another month or wait another couple of weeks or wait for the next pay-per-view to crown a guy or to get that big win. And it never works. It never does. You can go to Lex Luger in the late 80s with WCW where they just never pulled the trigger, and then when they finally pulled the trigger, he was out, almost immediately, because he wanted to leave because they didn't pull the trigger for so long. Kurt Hennig in AWA. I mean, how long? They teased that for fucking 3 years, right? With Kurt Hennig finally and then the same thing. He won the title and was like, I'm going to leave now. So thanks anyway, but I'm going to go to WWF or whatever. I mean, Lex Luger in WWF in 1993 again. King of the Ring. They say, or SummerSlam. They say, maybe we can wait a little bit. Maybe we can wait a little bit on this. You couldn't. It wasn't going to work. Time and time again in wrestling history that Tyler Black, a great example, just got brought up in our Noto's chat room. That is the one for people that watched Ring of Honor at the time, knew that there was a time and there was a place. And we all knew the exact moment when Tyler Black should have won the Ring of Honor title, and they didn't do it. And they did it like 4 months later, but nobody gave a shit anymore, and that was over. His run was done. Just numerous times that you can fuck around and think that there's another month or there'll be a better time. Usually that time that everybody kind of agrees is the right time is usually the right time. And not doing it.
Yeah, you can't get Sami Zayn any hotter than the biggest star in the company in his hometown on a pay-per-view. The biggest television rating mover in the company in his hometown, sold out crowd on a pay-per-view. You can't get a bigger time than that for Sami Zayn. You're saying, okay, well, Sammy's not the guy we're waiting for because we have to do the Cody match. Okay, well, it can't be any bigger for Cody than WrestleMania in front of 67,000 fans when Cody is now the biggest television draw in the company, the biggest house show draw in the company,
and is also going to be there for the house shows. He's going to be there for the house shows, whereas Roman won and said, all right, see ya. I'll be back when I come back. And now he's gone.
Correct.
He's left again.
Cody is also the biggest Cody is the biggest merch mover in the company. Cody is literally the biggest star in the company, and you peaked him perfectly at your biggest show.
Well, and the other thing too, I wanted to point out when people are saying, you know what, it never really, it's not right for Cody. This wasn't the time for Cody. He debuted last year at WrestleMania. 1 year to the date at WrestleMania, he wins up with what? That's the perfect time.
After winning the Royal Rumble. And
right, what?
And,
he won the Royal Rumble, right? What are we doing?
After winning the Royal Rumble, and he is literally the biggest star in the company. By every business metric, he's the biggest star in the company. And this is the biggest show, and it's exactly 1 year since the return, and he won the Royal Rumble. So if this isn't the right time, if you're telling me this isn't the right time, you're exposing to me that you do not know what you're talking about.
Right, you're just saying
you're just trying to you're just hopelessly indebted to this company and defending everything they do, because it is highly improbable. Now, look, they might do that. Cody might win the title at SummerSlam. Cody might win the title on fucking Raw next week. Cody might, I don't care when, and it might end up being a big time moment when Cody, but it will never be bigger than what they whiffed on at WrestleMania. Okay? And it could also go south. You don't know how these things are going to go, because as Rich said, you cannot fuck with this stuff. And they had two guys perfectly peaked.
Right. And they got lucky they had two.
More perfectly.
They had two in a 2-month span.
And they passed on both. And they passed on both for, and I quote, a story that never ends. It never ends? What does that even mean? What does that mean? And for what? To get this guy to some mythical title reign length? That, you might be able to sell that shit to your rank and file fan that this is some legendary reign. We all know it's not. Come on. And it's like, what does it mean? It means nothing anyway. Oh, he hits 1,000 days. Who cares? What does it mean? Zayn was hotter than him in February. Cody's hotter than him right now. He might not be anymore after you beat him, and then you had Brock Lesnar beat the living shit out of him. I mean, you can't get much hotter than Cody was. And like you said, he was working the house shows. Jesse Collins had that great Twitter thread. Nothing but facts. Television ratings, house show improvement year over year. The last time they were in the same cities. Cody working versus Cody not working. Okay? He's a bigger house show draw than Roman. He's peaking higher in the quarter hours than Roman, when Roman's not even on TV half the time. And he sells more, and he's the top merch seller based on, what WrestleNomics was able to dig up. When, if not now, when? How much hotter do you think you can get the guy?
And some of these
you run
mythical...
more of a risk.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, you run more of a risk of hurting him and making him less of a star than you do getting him hotter than this.
Right. How many times in wrestling history does that work? Where it's also, we're at WrestleMania. Again, we're not like, if you want to sell the Sami Zayn Elimination Chamber, hell, it just all kind of fell into place, but it's not the right time. That's fine. If not WrestleMania, then what are we fucking doing?
He's the guy.
Right.
Right. Because like, if you didn't have Cody as a backup plan, there's no argument against Zayn. The only reason I even accept an argument against Zayn winning that match is because they had Cody in their back pocket. And I'm not laying out the same scenario I've laid out on 3 straight flagships on why you should have done Zayn anyway. Okay? But they could have, Rich, they could have had their cake. They could have done both.
They could have gotten both, but they're so stupid.
They could have done both, and they didn't do either. They could have done both. They didn't do either.
Well, Joe, you have to acknowledge these title reigns here, because this graphic was making the rounds, and I don't know exactly who it came from initially, but I did fact check, and it is indeed correct. The places that Roman needs to be, the dates that he has to be to hit some of these milestones. We talk about these milestones, or to reach 1,000 days. He has to hold the title until May 27th, 2023. So that's not hard. That might be what they're doing here, is just saying, we want him to get to 1,000 days. Who fucking cares? What does that matter? But okay, sure. You want to get into 1,000 days? Cool. He has to hold it till May. So, okay. To beat Pedro Morales' title reign of 1,028 days, he has to hold the title till June 24th, 2023. So that's before SummerSlam. So he could beat Pedro Morales before SummerSlam. If he wants to beat the first reign of Bruno Sammartino, the one that lasted 1,238 days, we have to wait until January 20th, 24. So roughly around the same time as the Royal Rumble for next year. Okay? Mm-hmm. To beat Hulk Hogan's reign, which is 1,475 days, that is until September 13th, 2024. Okay, so we have to have another
after SummerSlam next year.
After SummerSlam next year, yes. To beat Bob Backlund, this is so absurd. If we're trying to reach any of these, to reach Bob Backlund's 2,136 days, he has to hold the title until July 6th of 2026.
Oh God! Can you imagine?
I can actually. The best one though is to beat Bruno Sammartino's second reign, the 2,804 days. He'd have to hold the title until May 4th of 2028. I don't know if I'll be alive in May of 2028, but that's what he's got to do. So we'll see if we can acknowledge that reign. I mean,
okay. Well, let's
so we're going for 1,000 days, right? Is that what we're? doing, I guess.
Let's say he gets to 2028. Then what? Like,
well, the story never ends.
So then what do? We get a segment on Raw where they have like a Bloodline has a party, right, to celebrate him breaking the record. But then he doesn't like the way that Jay looks at him, and and then we do that again.
Solo knocked over the cake, and
Yeah, Solo is mean mugging the camera, and he doesn't like the way Jay looks at him, and Jimmy's like scared, and he's trying to talk. Jay, come on, Oos, you know that he the head of the table, Oos, and we do the same fucking story that we've been doing for the last 3 years. That's bored everybody to tears, except when Sami Zayn was involved, because let's not forget that, and I won't let people forget.
No, please
this
don't.
This was like the most boring storyline in wrestling history until Sami Zayn got involved.
the meme that you used to have in throughout, I think it was 2021, throughout you'd have your reviews, and I think we were still tweeting at that time. You would post a picture of that week's Uso segment, Bloodline segment, and it was always the same. It was the same because they were in the Thunderdome at that time, so it was literally the same room every time. But it was the same. It was Roman Reigns sitting in his chair with his arms on both edges of the chair. Paul Heyman with either his mouth agape or his like finger in front of his mouth, thinking. And then
while clutching the title belts,
while touching the titles, while Uso had his head down, and it's just like, what is happening?
An Uso with a head down and another Uso looking concerned. It was the same shit, weeks and months and years on end, until Sami Zayn got involved and saved it. Okay, they can rewrite. Some of these dopey fans and some of these shitty podcasts that nobody cares about can rewrite history all they want. That storyline fucking sucked until Sami Zayn got involved and saved it. And guess what? Now that he's out, it sucks again. It sucks again because they have nowhere left to go with this thing now, except for Jey Uso for the 5th or 6th or 7th or who knows how many times.
I'm curious if he's Uso enough. I don't know about you, Joe. I'm into it.
Oh my God. And we're waiting around for Solo Sikoa to do that charisma-less void. We're waiting around for that guy.
Yeah, I mean, you're right that it makes. I know you pitched that like 7 months ago. That's like probably
it makes sense.
Right, it makes sense, but that ain't the dude. You know what I mean? Like we've seen a lot from the. He ain't that guy. He ain't that guy.
He ain't the guy. No, he. They'll eventually do it, but I don't think that he's got it in him. But this story stinks again because Sammy. So, but it never ends, obviously. They're telling you straight up it doesn't end. And they may have missed the boat. Now, listen, maybe this Cody Brock thing will be hot. And look, I'm not suggesting that this means Cody is going to go straight in the toilet and he's going to be working the mid-card by SummerSlam. He's obviously still going to be a top guy. But this was the moment. And you're running the risk of severely cooling him off. You're running the risk of fans now no longer being interested in his chase because they were hyped for it now. And that's a dangerous game to play. Historically, as Rich has pointed out, sometimes that backfires very badly. And even if it doesn't backfire in this case, I don't see how he can ever be hotter than he was right now.
No.
I just don't see how that can be the case. So I am firmly on the side that they fucked it up. And, and maybe this Brock thing, look, I understand they need a top program because Roman's going to go fuck off.
Because the guy that they won't have him ever lose the title doesn't want to work shows. And he's smart. He realized that about a year and a half ago that, hey, I got these guys on the fucking ropes. You know what? That's not going to work for me, brother. I'll show up when I show up. And they said, yes, sir. It sounds great. So now he shows up when he wants to show up. So good for them.
You know what's funny? This was so perfect to just do the switch because Roman was going to go fuck off anyway. So you can have him just disappear because he's embarrassed or whatever the fuck, right? Because he finally lost the title. So Roman goes and fucks off, and then you could have done the same Cody Brock angle.
Well, guess what? It makes more fucking sense because Brock Lesnar wants the goddamn title, so that's why he attacks Cody as opposed to just, I'll attack you now. I don't like you for some reason.
Right. Attacking him for no reason. This time he'd be attacking him with a purpose. And then, just first of all, and we just did this with Sami Zayn, but let's do it again.
Okay,
first of all,
great.
Let's picture Cody hitting that third crossroad after milking the crowd, getting the pin, and the incredible moment that would have produced in the building. And by the way, by every eyewitness account. People left that building deflated and pissed off. Nobody left that building thinking, the Codester is going to get him at SummerSlam. I'm going to pick up a ticket to wherever that show is being. No, people left that show deflated and annoyed that Cody lost. What would the difference have been if he hit that third Crossroads and pinned him and celebrated with that title and with fucking, with the Huber family and his child and Brandy, and they have this great, the fucking fire, the fucking pyro going off.
Can't have people happy. Are you kidding? That's not how you make wrestling. That's not how you sell wrestling tickets. Get out of here. People being happy and excited about a show. Come on.
Biggest television draw in the company, biggest ticket seller in the company, biggest merch mover in the company, the biggest fucking star in the company, wins the match at the right time. Then he shows up on Raw to open the show instead of Triple H going out there for PR reasons to convince everybody that he's still writing the show. He's not writing anymore. You have Cody go out there and open the show to another rousing ovation, tear in his eye, talking about Dusty. Then Brock comes out and fucking attacks him, and you've got yourself a red hot angle moving forward for the title while Roman's off, fucking off. And then you keep Roman away for a while until Cody overcomes Brock. And that's all finished. And then you can bring Roman back and have Roman chase Cody. It all made way too much sense to do it. And they didn't do it. And now what do you have? Your champion's gone. He's home on vacation. And Brock Lesnar's attacking Cody Rhodes for no discernible reason in a story that makes no sense, while your fans are shitting on the show and terrified that Vince McMahon is back. That's what you have instead. You can't convince me this was the right call.
Hell no.
You cannot.
No, the people that I've seen make the argument, I'm flabbergasted. I've seen a lot of people say like, well, what would Dusty have done? And it's like, all right, first off, Dusty probably would have had Cody win. He'd have him lose. He'd have Brock beat him the next night on Raw. You know what I mean? Like, if we're being honest, that's how Dusty would book it. He'd have Cody win, and then Brock would probably beat him on Raw. After. But also, like, Dusty Rhodes' booking does not have any relevancy to WWE in 2023. Dusty Rhodes' booking to sell tickets to the next town in a regional company or in Jim Crockett Promotions or whatever has no fucking bearing on what happens in 2023. So it's just, again, It's like, you don't have to defend this. Like, you can call a spade a spade. We all know this was fucking dumb, right?
Well,
like
a lot of them aren't defending. A lot of their hardcore fans do hate this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some who are defending it.
I've seen less like fans defending it and more like pundits or whatever. Your Busted Opens and your Bully Rays and a few people like that.
All right. Well, here's the thing. A lot of people
idiots,
a lot of people aren't going to like what I'm about to say, but a lot of these outlets depend on the support of WWE fans, and a lot of times they're always going to defer to defending the company because, as you know, there's a lot of people who enjoy listening to an echo chamber, and there's sort of this fear that they don't want to run off their audience.
Right.
So there's a lot of that too, and that, if people don't think that exists, and man, I can give you examples of that, not even having to do with that. And I never will, because I'm not going to go there and start feuds with I don't want to be Howard Stern in 1993 and start feuds with other shows or outlets or anything like that. But you see it, and it's obvious that a lot of these outlets, the way that they present their opinions are very guarded. There's a few in particular I could always tell when they're being completely full of shit and just placating their crowd or their audience. So there's a lot of that too, Rich. But I'm sure there's some people, and then there's others who just like to play devil's advocate, I'm sure, and then there may be some people who do think, all right, that this is good because it's heat. It's more, but there's a time for heat, and there's a time to just go with the hot hand. And for the reasons that we've already laid out, why it would have made all sense in the world to just do it here, and why you're really playing a dangerous game, kicking this can down the road, not once, but twice when you had two perfect opportunities. And we aren't even people who think Drew was a miss. You could argue that Drew was a miss too, but we don't. We happen to not think that one was a miss. You could argue that fucking Lucy pulled the ball back 3 times on this shit.
Right. The best part about that is then they had him cut a promo in front of the hometown crowd. Like, it's okay. It's fine. Don't be upset. It's all right. It's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, Good for them, I guess. But didn't matter.
See. Now look, look, now that Raw rating was incredible.
That's right? What I was going to come up to. That Raw rating, 2.26 million viewers, a 991,000 in the 18 to 49 demo. That was up 23% in the total audience from last week. In the demo, in 23% in the demo week over week, and 36.5%. So yeah, just wild. Yeah, just great number. 2.26, 991,000. But it was curiosity more than this week will be a very telling number for sure. Curiosity of how are they going to follow up on the Cody loss? Is Vince really back? What's going on? What's happening? And it's post WrestleMania, so that one always does pretty decent.
Look, it was post WrestleMania. It was the company just sold. It was, oh my God, Vince is back. It was a controversial finish in the match the night before, which that you can give them credit for because that's by design.
Yeah.
Okay, they did the controversial finish on purpose to drum up interest. You can't. They get credit for that portion of it. They don't get any credit for the sale happening when it happened. They don't get any credit for the usual post WrestleMania. All that other stuff, the curiosity. The same thing happened when the Vince story first broke. Remember when he was showing up on Raw and SmackDown to say, then, now, forever together, and then fucking throw the mic down and leave. Like there was a curiosity bump to the ratings. That's what happened here. So this is, in a lot of ways, an artificially high rating. And then the show it appears to be not well received. But is that real or is that noise? We're going to find out. This is why I said at the top of the show, I don't know if I'm prepared to call Cody a loser from WrestleMania weekend, and I am going to give it an incomplete. Because even though the Brock Lesnar angle didn't make any sense, and even though we think they should have put the title on him, this Brock thing might work. I don't know. I mean, just because it's illogical and doesn't make any sense doesn't mean that it wasn't exciting, and that it doesn't mean it isn't going to capture the attention of the fan base. But we're going to find out real soon if the most vocal of their fans, who are very negative on Vince and were very negative on the Raw, is going to be a statistically significant portion of the fan base if they choose not to watch. We're also going to find out real soon whether they choose or not. We've seen over the years, sometimes fans are full of shit. I'm never going to watch again. And they keep watching. Right? So I don't know what to make. I don't. If people are expecting this Raw number to drop to like 1.6 million next week, I think you're going to be severely disappointed. I think they're going to do another big number next week. I don't think they're going to do 2.26 million, but I think they're going to do another big number because I think there's still curiosity. And that's going to take a while to taper off. And remember back when we said Triple H needed to take advantage of the early curiosity, and he really didn't, and the ratings kind of slipped back. This is the same thing. I think Vince understands he has a window here of curiosity where he could really shake things up and do lots of wild shit like Brock attacking Cody to attempt to capture these people who are watching to see how this is going to go and get them to stick around week after week. Whereas Triple H didn't approach it that way. And we'll see if Vince does. So I think if anything, it slowly tapers off. And if the show is as awful as it was before under Vince, over time, I think it'll go right back down to the levels of where it was, pre-Triple H when Vince was in control. But that all remains to be seen, and I don't think we're going to get instant gratification either way on where this number is sort of going to settle.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see too. But it was like the 1-2 punch was. I mean, there was a lot. Like it wasn't like they eased into like not doing the Cody thing, and then Vince comes back like 5 weeks later, and then 2 weeks after that they're sold or whatever. It was like bam, bam, bam. It was like Cody doesn't win, the company is sold, and Vince is back, like all in the span of like 24 hours. And I thought that was. We don't know. We'll see. Will that actually wear on them? Will that actually be something that is felt and seen? Or like you said, there might just be a curiosity for a little while of, all right, how bad are these Vince shows going to be, or how wild are these going to be? And then, as it usually ends up being, eventually people just kind of fall back into it. Like your people are going to fall off. You're going to get a bunch of people that are going to fall off, but your dyed-in-the-wool WWE fans are going to just learn to love it anyway. You know what I mean? They're going to learn to enjoy it again anyway, like they always do. So.
And let's not forget this. This is an important point too. I mean, Triple H is going to come off like a martyr here. And even though he's lost power and he's essentially lost his job, he's kind of in a no-lose situation because anything bad is going to be blamed on Vince. And his little 8-month era or whatever it was is
oh, that is going to be so romanticized. Can you imagine that thing in like 10 years? Ugh.
Even now, I mean, it's so held up. It's like that. Oh, we had that great 8 months of Triple H. It was amazing booking. He's like, from that standpoint, he's a winner, you know. And but let's not forget, WWE business was on an upswing when he took over for Vince last July. And I don't know if a lot of people realize that or remember that. Everything was starting to look up. And this sort of quote unquote hot period that they had later on may have happened anyway, because there were signs that it was coming. And he was handed the Bloodline story. He was handed Sami Zayn. That was under Vince as part of the Bloodline story. Did he handle it better than Vince would have? I would say probably. He was handed Gunther. Gunther won the Intercontinental title under Vince. And I don't know if a lot of people remember that. Did he handle Gunther better than Vince would have? I would say undoubtedly. Vince would have beat Gunther in a month, and who the fuck knows what Gunther would be doing right now. Triple H, his handling of Gunther has been perfect. Perfect. Okay? Outside of that, and the reintroduction of Bray Wyatt, which was a clear winner. Everything that happened after, massive failure. Because if Bray Wyatt doesn't come back, at the end of the day, what did they get out of Bray Wyatt? He popped a couple of quarter hours.
And a soda match.
Wrestled L.A. Knight.
And a soda match, yeah, and the Mountain Dew pitch black match, yep.
So in totality, Bray Wyatt's been a massive bust. After starting off hot, Triple H had no ideas. None. And he didn't stick the landing on any of the Bloodline stuff. He got handed Cody Rhodes. He got handed Sami Zayn. Did a nice job with him, and then didn't stick the landing. He handled Gunther well. I wouldn't change a thing about how he handled Gunther. Started off all right with Bray. That ended up a failure. What was Triple H's big creation? Damage control. First thing out of the gate on his first pay-per-view, what was it? Damage control. Massive bust. Didn't work. How did Triple H handle the 2 women's titles coming into WrestleMania? Both of those things a massive bust. How did Triple H handle Ronda Rousey? Ends up in a meaningless 4-way tag. Now, she asked to be in the tag, but he still didn't handle it very well. Meaningless undercard match. Rousey a non-entity. How did Triple H handle all of his Infinity Stone people he brought back? They're all in the Andre Battle Royal.
Or on NXT.
Or back on NXT. Those were all massive busts. Every single one of them. An astounding number of them, by the way. He brought back like 15, 20 people. None of them.
Zero are doing anything
Zero.
relevant.
So you look at this guy's booking in totality. Where's the wins? Gunther. Bloodline without sticking the landing on either major story. A couple weeks of Bray before dropping the ball on that because he has no ideas. This guy is so overrated. Where's the great ideas? Where's the hot storylines that Vince is inheriting that he's going to screw up? Where are they? He might screw up Gunther because he doesn't like him. Where are these other hot storylines that Triple H is handing off to Vince that Vince is going to screw up? Vince has been handed nothing. There's nothing going on in that company.
Yeah, he can really start blank slate. Yeah, he can start blank slate because they have no stories going
There's
on.
nothing happening in that company.
Ray and Dom was a story that has been going on for many years before.
That one.
Yeah.
We forgot that one, but again, where did that start? Started under Vince.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did Triple H handle that one well? Yes, he did.
I did. Yeah, I would give him credit there. But we're done with that. We're done with that, Matt. That story's done though.
And that's one where there's nowhere to go because Dom is so useless that you can't do anything else with him. You can't get him. Like, this is it for Dom. He's hit the ceiling. He stinks. But that, I mean, you know, the cupboard, where's the hot call-ups from NXT? Who has Triple H successfully elevated from NXT and created into a star in the 8-9 months he's been in charge? Who? Who? I sound like New Day. Who is it?
Yeah, I'm thinking, but
and that's plenty of time. He had SummerSlam to WrestleMania. Point me to someone.
Good little time period.
I'm begging you.
It's a lot of time.
This guy's so overrated. You know, but and he's not going to have to face the consequences of being a boring ass booker with no ideas, because now he's out of the job. And now he gets to just reap the benefits of those 8 months. Like you're saying, years from now, we're going to be hearing about these fucking 8 months.
Get ready.
Where if Sami Zayn wasn't incredible, no one remembers them as anything. You know what I mean? Fucking Triple H. The best outcome is sending him back to NXT. Vince is like, oh, well, I'll take it from here.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul. You've done well, Paul.
And I'll tell you what, Shawn might need to be replaced because
I was going to say that's probably an upgrade for sure.
You want to talk about a shitty booker. I mean, he has Braun Breaker endorse the guy that just cheated him out of his title. And so Carmelo Hayes cheats to win the title, right? With Trick Williams and the ref bump.
Right. And obvious, and Braun knows, and everybody knows.
Braun knows. Like Enzo says, everybody knows. Like, we know what happened here. Braun knows. Fucking Braun endorses him after the match.
Put it right here. Yeah, this guy.
This is the new guy. Then the next night they do a double turn and Braun turns heel. Why is Carmelo Hayes a babyface when we all saw him cheat to win the title? Number one. And also Braun got a visual win before, like he got the visual win on Carmelo Hayes. Then Carmelo Hayes cheats and wins the title. Braun inexplicably endorses him. Then the next night they do a double turn. How is that any way to set up a double turn? You made the guy who's going to be a babyface look like a cheater, right? And then why didn't Braun just do the turn like on the fucking pay-per-view if you're going to do that? Why do you endorse him first? Like,
he had to lull him into a false sense of security to
what is this
to turn on. Yeah, I don't know.
None of it makes sense. None of it makes sense. It's garbage. It's fucking junk. This is a company where, you know, Michael Cole, and then we can move on, but this is my final point. Michael Cole constantly puts over how dominant and great Roman Reigns' title reign is when all he does ever is cheat to keep the title. And it makes no goddamn sense.
Right. It makes the credibility of your announcers look like nobody else notices what's happening here.
Like, how is Michael Cole not ranting and raving and complaining that Roman Reigns has done it again and cheated somebody out of a title win? Why are we treating this like he's not a heel who uses people to help him protect the title? He shouldn't be like, the way the announcers should be playing it is this is a farce of a title reign. He's cheating the fans.
Yeah, can't somebody do something about this? Like, why are we still letting this guy do this? Yeah, right.
Like, this is a disgrace that he's going to break all of these records because he never, you know, he always uses the Usos always help him win. But no, they play it up like he basically gets babyface. And now they put him over like a babyface on commentary. And that's not Michael Cole's fault. He's getting that from the top. And they did the same thing with Braun Breaker. It's almost like, Carmelo Hayes, it's almost like there's no heels in this company. Like, it's, you know, so then it just makes people like Cody Rhodes and Braun Breaker look like fucking goofs. Just makes them look like total goofs. They're putting over Roman when Solo Sikoa helped them win.
Clearly, and we all saw it. It was very obvious.
And instead of the announcers complaining about it or saying how terrible this is, they're like putting Roman over. But this is some brilliant booker who's doing a great, I don't know. I don't know. Fucking sucks.
Christopher Ellis brings up a good point in the for the NXT as well, that Roxanne Perez, who was going to be in the title match, but then couldn't because she had anxiety or whatever. So she's then goes back into the match and then loses and then doesn't win. It's like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
It's like, can you overcome anxiety? No, you can't. Anxiety is too much to overcome. Sorry, you will lose the match if you have too much anxiety. So don't have anxiety. It's like,
that was a
oh, okay.
That was a big overbooked mess too. With a total.
But the story
disaster.
is just incredible. It's like, this woman is battling anxiety, but she's going to pull through to wrestle on. Oh, she lost. Okay, never mind. Anxiety is too much. You can't handle it. Just give up. Just give up. Don't even try if you have anxiety because you're going to lose anyway. So it's like, what?
Well, I mean, to their credit, I thought they were going to do the big melodramatic spot with her where she's trying to overcome her fucking anxiety in the match by making dumb faces and trembling and shit. Thankfully, they didn't do that, at least. You know, that would have been all. And I thought that was coming. I mean, Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, anyway, we got some other stuff.
We got a lot of other stuff to get to, so we'll move on from WWE land here. AEW, we'll combine these pretty quickly here. AEW is going to the United Kingdom for All In London, Sunday, August 27th. All In is going to take place in London at Wembley Stadium, a gigantic stadium that I believe can hold up to 100,000 people. Obviously, they're probably not going to sell 100,000 tickets. They're not going to try to sell 100,000 tickets. But you know what? When you saw this, like, what was in your mind? Like, what do you? How much do you think they can sell, and what would be a disappointment for you? I guess what would be what's the threshold for, oh, that is awesome, what a good house that is, to, hey, that's a shitty house, they fucked up, they built, they maybe overstepped their bounds a little bit here with Wembley Stadium.
40,000.
So if they get 40,000, that is your anything below or over. So if they're at 45, you're saying good. If they're at 38, you say bad.
If they have 45,000 paid in that building, if anybody says that's a bad job, they're out of their minds. That because they're going to break every record they have. Paid attendance, gate, they're going to smash their gate. It's going to look great on TV. This is what I've been asking Tony Khan to do. Be a little more aggressive. So conservative the first time in LA. Should have ran that little soccer stadium they have out there. So conservative when they went to Toronto. Everyone agrees they should have ran a bigger building the first time in Toronto. So conservative with both Forbidden Door shows. Both of those shows could have drawn more fans. And I've been talking about, do the WWE model. Run the huge building. Maybe not buildings of this scope every time. But we'll get to this one. I think it's the right move for the first time in the UK. But run the bigger buildings, and if you don't sell every single ticket, who gives a shit? Sell as many tickets as you can. You know, I'd rather, if it's, of course, cost matters and what you can get these buildings for. But, that's what WWE does. I mean, last year's SummerSlam, they between the stage and the parts that were curtained off, that football field in Nashville where the Titans play, they used like 40% of that building. But they still sold like whatever it was. I don't remember what they sell, 45,000 tickets or something.
Yeah, somewhere 45, 47, somewhere in that range.
And it's like, that's an enormous success. And they just didn't show you the empty seats on camera. And no one gives a shit because it's still a massive house. Like, those are the kind of things I've been wanting Tony Khan to do. And he's just been so conservative in all these instances. And I was afraid that he was just going to run an arena, what's the arena in London? The O2?
Oh, the O2 arena. Yeah, it's like their main arena. The WWE runs that arena a bunch too. Yeah, the O2.
Yeah, I thought they were going to run the O2 or maybe run a smaller soccer stadium. But this is exactly the right move. And I think that as long as you put at least 40,000 people in there, it's a success. And I am tentatively predicting that they will, based on how strong they are on television. And they're going to draw from all of Europe. Okay, so it's not just, we know that they're a strong television property in relation to wrestling in the UK. We know that. We know that that market has been dying for an AEW show. And this is the first time there. And, you're going to sell to a ton of locals, but you're also going to sell to people all across Europe. And I think that's going to make a difference too. And I also think that they know that this is their first real big risk, and I think they're going to load that card the fuck up. I mean, we already see people talking about it. Rich, for the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about how CM Punk is all of a sudden persona non grata again, and we're never going to see him. And now people are fantasy booking CM Punk for this show because people understand that they have to put their best foot forward here and do the best show possible. I've seen people talk about Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay too, which I think would be a great match for this show, depending on, you know, how the booking of that series is going to go. Of course, they have a lot of opportunities to do Omega Ospreay. This is one of them. You know, Forbidden Door is one of them. But again, you know, people are fantasy booking Nigel McGuinness to wrestle on the show. I don't know where people get the idea that Nigel McGuinness is hopping back in a ring, but you get the sense that everybody knows that this is going to have to be
right. They're going to have to put their best foot forward in all the right ways to sell as many tickets as they can to this thing.
And I think they're going to. And I think that, you know, I think that, you know, what's going to happen is they're going to sell like 45, 50,000 tickets tops. People are going to say it's a failure because it's a 90,000 seat building, and the discourse is going to be fucking irritating as usual, but it's going to break every one of their records. It's going to be the most successful show they've ever done, I think. And, you know, I had a feeling the major announcement was going to be the UK debut, and I thought that was going to kind of be a little bit of a wet fart because why would people in America care? But when I saw that it was Wembley, and I saw that it was going to be the 5-year anniversary of All In with All In branding, and all of those factors, I then was like, oh no, this is a big deal. This is huge because this is going to be, you know, the biggest show that they've ever run, unless it's a massive bomb, which I don't get the sense that it has any chance to be a massive bomb.
I don't think so either. I think the fact that it's like the big giant stadium, like you said, and it's the first time they're in Europe, and it's in the first time they're in the UK, and they do a great audience. Like for people, they do great television ratings on in the UK, and they're on the bigger station than WWE is in the UK as well. I don't know if a lot of people know about that, but they are. They're on the top station in terms of wrestling compared to WWE or whatever. And I just think people are going to rally behind the idea that, like, look, we can go to this Wembley Stadium and try to have a big time, gigantic event here. So I think, and AEW would be smart too, to make ticket prices as affordable as possible, where, yeah, your high-end tickets, your floor, that sort of stuff, make it whatever, but yeah, your upper deck stuff, you know, make that as easy to get in as possible and just make it as a scene, you know what I mean? Make it as much of a scene as you possibly can, because that will have some cachet and have some great PR value to it as well, to put as many people as you can in there, even if maybe, you know, you're sacrificing a few dollars here and there on the upper deck tickets or the higher level tickets or whatever. But no, I tend to think, like, it seems like a lot of people, the initial excitement level is very, very high from everything that I've seen. So I'll be fascinated to see how tickets move when they eventually do it. And AEW really, like, you know, most of the times that they're in the first place and a first time for a big show, like, yeah, do their weekly Dynamites. Their weekly Dynamites, you know, they're not wowing you attendance-wise at all anymore. But when they announce a big-time show, like a Forbidden Door or any sort of big-time pay-per-view or a first-time, you know, time when they're going to be in a place or whatever, they usually do very, very well. They surprise people every single time, and I don't think this is going to be an exception either. I think they're going to do a fantastic job selling this thing out. Or selling as much as they possibly can. I don't know what they're going to structure it for, but I think they can probably get 50. I think 50 to 60. I think they could probably do. Anything above that is just like, okay, now we're just
God, forget it.
Yeah,
now you're talking one of the biggest wrestling shows.
60 would be my highest of the high end, and I'm not even sure they could get there. I think 50 is probably the more conservative thing. If they get to 60, they're all jumping up and down in the room, and then anything above that is just, you know, they're passing out from excitement. So
I think, well, then you're moving your operations to fucking London. But I think that 40 is a reasonable goal and a highly successsul turnout, you know, and I think if you're in the mid to high 30s, that's pretty good. But, you know, and anything below that, well, you could have ran the O2, right? I mean, if, you know, so, but I think it's going to be big, and I think they're going to put their best foot forward. And it's interesting because that's right around All Out. And, you know, Anthony Bowens put out that tweet, and then some other people confirmed that All Out's still going to be on the books. This isn't All In 5-year anniversary replacing All Out. And that's going to be held right around the same time. Yeah. That's two major shows. And now on the press release, they didn't say it's a pay-per-view, and they really didn't give broadcast information at all. So we still don't know how this is going to air. There's no fucking way it's going to be a house show. So there's going to be a way to watch it. The London show, I mean. We just don't know yet how. We don't know if it's going to be a pay-per-view airing in the morning or early afternoon in the U.S. Was it 6 hours from Eastern time zone, right? So if it's 7 p.m. bell time, you're looking at 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. Pacific, which is obviously an odd time to run a wrestling pay-per-view, and which is why when SummerSlam 92 was there, they did it on tape delay, which ended up being a mistake. So, I wouldn't do it. I'd run it live as an experiment. Look, you're going to make such a massive gate on that show anyway. Don't worry if you lose a few pay-per-view buys because it's, 11 a.m. in the mountain time zone. I wouldn't worry about that. I would run it live. In this day and age, especially,
you cannot run a thing on a tape delay. No. It's got to be live.
So,
make people accommodate, make people change if they want to. I mean, especially America. I think, by and large, I think most people are probably a little bit more apt to be up at weird times or to wake up at a weird time for a sport or whatever than they were, in 1992 or whatever. I get why in 1992 they maybe thought, oh man, we're a little scared, especially since you're selling it on pay-per-view or whatever. I don't know what this is going to be. I don't know. It's this good opportunity to maybe do HBO Max if you want to kind of,
there's bits to talk at, yeah.
Yeah, if you want to kind of, help.
TV special.
Yeah, TV special, help Warner, help, give them a little say, hey, we're doing this thing, and hey, we can present this on TV for you if you want, because pay-per-view might be a tougher buy, but yeah, I still just think it's do it live. You just, there's no other choice. You can't do it on tape delay, and just not showing it would be dumb too. You're just throwing away money by that. So stream it somewhere, air it somewhere.
Unless they already have a streaming or television deal planned for this that they just don't announce yet. Either a special on a WBD channel, or like you're saying, streaming it on a WBD partner streaming site or something. Unless it's already in place, I don't see why you wouldn't run it on pay-per-view. I understand you have another pay-per-view within possibly a week. It's going to be close with, but so what? I think the AEW pay-per-view buying audience is pretty loyal. I don't, everybody's not going to be able to afford 2 pay-per-views in 1 month, but if this show is stacked as much as we think it might be, and it's pushed as such a landmark event in front of this massive crowd, I think people will buy this one despite the time difference. And it's like anything else. If you make All Out a big enough card, they'll buy that one too. And maybe you don't get the usual 140,000 buys for both of them, but if you do 110,000 buys for each, aren't you coming out ahead? You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't preclude me, but it's odd that they haven't said it's on pay-per-view. That's weird that they haven't announced anything yet in terms of how we're going to consume this thing. And then the question becomes, do you have enough big matches for Forbidden Door, a fucking Wembley Stadium, and All Out? Tony has to put away his conservative booking, and he's got to pull out the big guns because he's got these huge shows now that have to have matches. So he doesn't really have a choice. And I have to tell you, Rich, it kind of makes more sense to me why it looks like they're going to do Double or Nothing's the next pay-per-view, right? That's the main pay-per-view or whatever. It's Double or Nothing.
Yep.
Now it kind of makes more sense to me why it looks like we're going to do this 4 pillars 4-way. Right? Not going to burn off one of MJF's bigger one-on-one pay-per-view matches because they're going to need him for at least 2 of these shows. He might duck out on Forbidden Door because that's his gimmick. His gimmick is that he doesn't like New Japan. But he's got to work the other 2. And I think now it's kind of come into focus why we're doing this 4-way with 3 guys who right now, I don't think anybody would consider Sammy Guevara a legitimate one-on-one pay-per-view main eventer. Same for Jungle Boy. Darby, you can make more of an argument for, but the other 2 you can't. They wouldn't be strong pay-per-view main eventers. So you do this 4-way, and you're not burning off one of the huge matches for MJF. And of course, if Punk is coming back, then you don't worry about anything. You put Punk on that Wembley show, and
yeah, right.
You're going to sell pay-per-views and you're going to sell tickets. And I know there's this weird contingent of AEW fans who are like changing history and trying to claim that Punk wasn't a draw, but you bring that guy back and now you don't have any concerns. You got plenty of matches for all of these fucking shows now if Punk's coming back. But I've never been less confident than ever that Punk is coming back. Before the bullshit over the last 2 weeks, I was very confident that at some point Punk was coming back, no matter who liked it or who didn't like it. Now I have some reservation after the latest bout of shit hitting the fan. But, if you can get him back and he can behave himself at least through the summer and this stretch of shows, I think you do it. Yeah, you could get that MJF match done finally, right? So, I don't know. Any other thoughts on this?
No, nothing else. We'll see what ends up. Ticket sales when they officially go live, and then what the future of All Out is, because it just seems wild to do 2 pay-per-views within like a week span or whatever. I maybe push All Out to like later in September to give yourself a little bit of a break, but man, it seems like a wild fall if that's what they're gonna do. But we'll see. But the other news in AEW this week, Jay White officially is All Elite. So he came out during a segment where Juice Robinson and Ricky Starks were facing off with one another. He came out, he got a graphic and everything. He is All Elite, aligned with Juice Robinson. And where do we think he fits in otherwise? And do you think this is a good spot for Jay White?
Yeah, I think Jay White is tailor-made for American TV. I thought it was time for a change for him with New Japan. We've talked about it ad nauseum. He was really just spinning his wheels in New Japan. We were all getting sick of him there. We didn't want him there anymore as New Japan fans. I thought he would have. Well, I would have been more confident under Levesque, but I thought he would have succeeded in WWE under Levesque for sure. Under Vince, who knows? And maybe that's why he made the decision he made, right? But he was great on Impact. His little run on Impact, he was fantastic. He's just great on American TV, so I think he will succeed in AEW because I think Tony Khan will handle him properly, and I think Tony Khan will treat him like a star because he's more than likely paying him like a big star because it was a bidding war. So the guy he's probably getting 7 figures. I mean, I'd be very confident he's got a 7-figure deal per year. So that alone is going to necessitate a push. It's like when you sign a big free agent in baseball. And he sucks the first year, you kind of have to play him the second year because you have to justify the cost, right? It's like, I'm not saying Jay White is a shitty bust of a free agent. What I'm saying is you pay somebody, you got to push him. So, and I trust that he'll be pushed properly. So yeah, I think this is going to work out. I think he would have done well in WWE as well if Vince hadn't come back. So, and this is I think a much needed fresh change of scenery for Jay White.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly if I'm ready to peg him as this or that or whatever in AEW. I'm just kind of like, hey, you know what? I think the guy looks like $1 million. He always came across like a star. I've kind of been indifferent to him for a while, so it's gonna be a point where I'm like, all right, prove it to me. Prove it to me that you're happy to be here. That you finally, because when he was motivated and really felt like he wanted to be in New Japan, he was great, and there was few guys better than him. It's just tough because the last 3 years, basically, he has not felt like a guy who really wanted to be there or felt like he really felt it or felt like he really had. I don't know. I just wasn't getting effort out of that guy. And effort's a big thing to me. Effort means more than almost anything else to me in wrestling. So I want to see him give that effort. I want to see him act like he really wants this and wants to become a star and wants to be on TV and wants to, I don't need guys to, I need a little juice, a little bit of effort out of him. And I just was not getting that at all in New Japan. So I'm going in cautiously optimistic of what he's going to be in AEW, but when he's on, I mean, there's few guys better than him. He's the guy that we talk about all the time. He can have, on one day, he can have one of my favorite matches ever, and then the next day he can have one of my least favorite matches ever, and that's where he is, and that's where he's been. The barometer has been with him in New Japan. So I'm excited to see him in AEW, and I do hope that he finally feels like he is at a place where he wants to be again, and hopefully, hopefully we see the output because he's great. He's great when he gives us a chance. So.
And it's always interesting to see guys in a new environment and what.
Oh yeah. I wish this would happen more. People freak out about jumps all the time. Oh, what does this mean for in New Japan? What does this mean for WWE? What does this mean for AEW? We just talked about it earlier with Butch. Like them lasting in WWF for 8 years was like unheard of at that time. Like guys just didn't stay. Razor Ramon's entire WWF career was 4 years, Joe. 4 years.
Yeah.
Dolph Ziggler's had like 19 Royal Rumbles. You know what I mean? It's just like, come on. Like the entire run of guys. And that was good. That is healthy. That is a healthy industry when guys bounce back and forth and tell different stories. Speaking of the Bushwhackers again, those were guys who used to go to different places and tell the same story a lot of different places, but put a different coat of paint on it when they were in Puerto Rico or when they were in Portland or when they were in Memphis or when they were in Mid-South, whether in Texas and San Antonio and Houston. Like, that's good. people being in new places is good. We should want that out of wrestling. I don't want my roster to be the same 25 people for 10 years. That's boring as fuck. I don't want that. So guys jumping, guys moving, guys bouncing, that's good. That's healthy. I want that.
Legendary King Kong Bundy, I think his first run was 85 to 88. And I think he really only got pushed in 85 and 86, right? Because by 87, he was working the midget match at WrestleMania. And by 88, he was like on his way out. So it's there's so many examples of guys that that's how it was for years in WWF. If you stayed 5 years, it was a long time. So yeah, I think movement is good too. But, you know who could use some movement? Tyler Bate could use some movement. That's a guy who could use some movement.
Several guys. Ali could probably use some movement. Several guys that could probably stand to try to change their lot in life, but they don't. All right, let's get to this NWA. We can't finish the show without talking about NWA 312 taking place this weekend. Tomorrow, we're recording this on the 6th. On the 7th. So if you're in the Chicago area, well, it doesn't matter because you can't fucking find tickets. Because guess who fucked around and found out, wanted to go to the NWA show, but found out that tickets were well sold out by 3 weeks out. 3 weeks out, tickets completely sold out for NWA 312, and then also tickets sold out for Saturday's tapings. 2 Saturday tapings also sold out. The NWA, I don't know who these people are. I don't know where they are, where they live, where they're from, what wrestling podcast they listen to. We need to get them listening to our podcast. They are going to have 3 sellout shows this weekend, the NWA. And people act like it's a meme and this company and nobody cares. They are going to sell this place out. I don't know how many people are going to put in this building. It's a relatively bigger building than a normal arena.
Probably
I don't know.
A couple hundred people,
yeah,
right?
Maybe 300, 400, 500, something like that. There's a lot of indies that would kill to in one weekend run 3 shows and sell 300 tickets to all 3 of those shows. You know what I mean?
Three sellout shows in 2 days. How many promotions can do that in Chicago that aren't
None.
That aren't AEW or WWE?
None.
Even with a building this size, even with a room this size. I mean, again, listen, look, they're not running Soldier Field, but I mean, relatively speaking, how often do we come on here and talk about, well, they did another sellout for pay-per-view. Who are these people? It's like a Seinfeld bit. Who are these people who are buying these tickets
I don't
to
know.
these NWA shows?
Even though I can't get in the building, I think I got to wait outside and hand out posters for the flagship Patreon to every one of these people, because if we can tap into these people, we're making the money, man. Because these people exist, and I don't think they listen to our show, and they're not in our Discord, because everybody in our Discord just spends the entire time everybody in our bubble, and that's not just Discord, it's also like Twitter and just the grand scheme of this area of the wrestling world thinks of the NWA as this like completely irrelevant laughing stock of a company. And it is there's a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about it here in a sec. It's a lot of stuff they do that makes no sense whatsoever, but goddamn, they sell tickets. And I will say, for Chicago specifically, the Smashing Pumpkins and Billy Corgan still have a little cachet in Chicago. They do. They just do. And they're smart to locally, mention Billy Corgan as many times as possible, mention the Smashing Pumpkins as many times as possible. And they wanted to run a much, much, much bigger building. Somebody who was privy to it said that they were kicking the tires on a much bigger building. And that, I'm not saying the United Center, I'm not saying the Soldier Field. It's a building that's never hosted wrestling before. It's a relatively new building in the city in terms of event space. So you can kind of, if you're from Chicago, you can maybe put 2 and 2 together and think about it.
You say building, it's really a room.
Yeah.
But a bigger room.
A bigger venue to run this show in. But it's one, again, you can guess a bunch, but it's not one that's ever hosted wrestling before. But it was a big room, and everybody was like, whoa, okay. And they ended up not doing that. They ended up doing this place either. But like, had they said the Smashing Pumpkins are going to be there, and also there's going to be wrestling, like they probably would have sold that room out. You know what I mean? If Billy said, fuck it, I'll play some songs at the beginning, they probably would have sold that out, because Billy and the Pumpkins still do have some cachet in Chicago. But with that said, that doesn't explain, like you said, that a lot of other places they go to, they sell pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, Nuff Said was a really small room and didn't look great, but the New Orleans show before that, while it didn't sell out, there were a lot of people there. And they always crush it in St. Louis. Like every time they go to St. Louis at the Chase, that one year they sold out.
It was like 4. Wasn't it 4 straight shows in a weekend, or 3 or 4, something like that?
On the first time they did the anniversary there, I mean, it's inexplicable. I shit you not, 16 episodes of NWA TV that aired between Nuff Said and this pay-per-view.
Nobody told you to do that, by the way.
No one told me to do it, but I did it. So I watched every episode of TV. Did I watch every single match? I did not. Are some of them a half hour long? Yes. Do all of them have commercials that you could skip? Yes. Do a lot of them have replayed matches from the previous week or from previous pay-per-views? Yes. So it wasn't as daunting as it sounds.
It sounds very daunting. It sounds extremely daunting.
It still sucked. I'm not going to lie. Like, it wasn't any good. The build to this pay-per-view is terrible. They built towards matches all for the last 2 months, and like they aren't even happening. Like, they built towards Bully Ray versus Matt Cardona, and that match isn't even happening. They built towards Tyrus versus EC3, and it's not even happening. But somehow people buy these tickets. So I don't know. And we're going to make Rich watch this weekend, and he's going to review it next
Of course.
week.
All right, so
Can't
quickly.
Get in the building, but
I tried. Like, I thought I could waltz it because WrestleMania weekend was going on. I was like, I'm not in the mood for wrestling here, or whatever. And then like, there's a lot going on over the week. I'll show up the day of. I thought day of, cash in hand. I'm able to get in this building. You know what? Hey, I'll buy tickets a little bit ahead of time, so I'll go to check them. They're early this week on Tuesday or whatever, sold out. No, like
you snooze, you lose.
I thought there'd be, hey, sign up here, and if any tickets become available, no, they're like, we're fucking sold out. You're not coming. Oh, okay. Damn it. 4 shows on the pre-show for NWA 312. NWA United States Tag Team titles, the Country Gentlemen defending against the SVGs. It's just that team. Sorry, I thought there was multi. I have multi-man from WrestleMania weekend. I just assumed that there had to be multiple teams involved in this. But no, it's just the Country Gentlemen versus the SVGs.
Yeah, the U.S. Tag Team titles, which a running story throughout all of the TV was that Wrecking Ball Lugursky and Jay Bradley had stolen the U.S. titles from AJ Kazana and Anthony Andrews because they were mad that they lost them. And Bobby Fulton, a former United States Tag Team champion that we talked about earlier, was very mad at these men for besmirching the titles by running around as fake champions. And then they don't even do the Country Gentlemen versus Lugursky and Jay Bradley. They do them against Jack Stain and Blake Troop. So again, you build a match for 2 months, and then we don't even get the match. We just had Billy come out, steal the titles back from the guys who stole them, and then they're not even on the fucking. I don't even think they're on. No, they're in the Battle Royal. They're in the Dopey Battle Royal. So
a lot of people in the Battle Royal.
You build these matches for months, and then you don't even give people the matches on the show. It doesn't make sense, except for this next one.
Hair versus mask strap match. We need as many gimmicks as possible with this guy. Sal the Pal versus Gags the Gimp.
So these two guys had a hair versus mask match on TV, which ended in a double countout.
Of course.
The famous double countout finish for what do you call it in Mexico? The Apuestas match or whatever?
Yep.
So they're going to do it again, Rich. Sal the Pal versus Gags the Gimp. Hair versus mask. This time, because of the countout, they'll be strapped together. Oh. How will that prevent a countout? I don't understand.
I don't know.
Like, they can
both go outside. It's not a cage. A cage would prevent a countout. A strap, you could both roll out of the ring, but you're strapped together. In fact, it seems like it'd be more likely to cause a countout.
Right. Double countout especially.
Yeah, because you can't. Yeah. Okay. Trevor Murdoch and Mike Knox versus Daisy Kill and Talos. I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah, that's happening.
All right. It is a match happening on the pre-show. And then your last pre-show match, Natalia Markova versus Labvara Escobar. Labvara Escobar? I don't know who that is, but.
Sure.
Now the pay-per-view itself, that is available on voicesofwrestling.com/fight, by the way. You're going to definitely want to order that because you can't get in the building. Look. I'll be watching on Fight because I can't get in the building. So I'll be at voiceswrestling.com/fight watching NWA 312. Bully Ray versus Tom Latimer in what's being declared an exhibition match. Why is this an exhibition match?
Oh, okay. So any match in the NWA that isn't a title match or doesn't have
well, there's only one.
So. Right. Or doesn't have definable stakes, like the hair versus mask match.
It is an exhibition match.
It's always labeled an exhibition match, which I hate because it makes it sound like it doesn't count.
Right. I thought this was like an unsanctioned match or something like that. They're like, we're not going to declare this one. Okay, but it's not. It's just a match. It's happening.
No, like if you watch the TV and there's just like a singles match between two guys, it'll always say exhibition match.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
Well, Bully Ray and Tom Latimer, main event in any building, but unfortunately not at Studio One Events LLC in Highland Park on Friday. But anyway.
Yeah, and they built Bully Ray versus Matt Cardona the entire time.
Right. But now we have Tom Latimer.
Not happening.
All right. I'm not going to list all the names. I can't possibly do this. There's a Bob Lucy
a
Memorial 20-man battle royal with every person that's not on another match. So there you go.
And you know what's interesting? They debuted this guy at the taping, this 7'3" guy named Beast Mode. Okay. And he's nowhere to be found on this show. I thought he'd be in the battle royal for obvious reasons, right? And then just win the battle royal. He shows up. He wrestles Trevor Murdoch. We never see him again. I don't know. What do you want me to say? Like, it's not like he looked any worse than any of these people ever do.
Yeah. There's a lot of people on this show that don't necessarily. It's all right. Well, there you go. Well, now don't worry, because every other match is a title match. Here we have the NWA World Tag Team titles. La Rebellion defending against Magnum Muscle. I feel like La Rebellion has been the NWA World Tag Team champions for like as long as Roman has been a champion. Is that true? Have they really had the titles this long? I got to look this up. One sec.
I will tell you one good thing about them, about Billy's booking, or whoever you think is doing. Billy is in the room. Simon Diamond. Okay. They're not afraid to do long title reigns.
No.
Because Camille has had the title forever. La Rebellion has had the titles forever.
Oh, you know what? Okay, so here's what happened. They did have them. They won them initially in August of 2021, but the Commonwealth connection broke up the reign. Remember when Doug Williams and Harry Smith beat them? But then they got hurt pretty quickly after. Or I forget what happened, or Harry Smith got hired by WWE or something like that happened. I forget what it was. And then La Rebellion won them back. So they had a 286-day reign. That was broken up by a 77-day reign. And now they're in the midst of a 223-day reign. So essentially, they've had the titles since August of 2021. They've just had a few bumps in the road along the way.
They're not afraid to do that. Nick Aldis had the title forever. So, and I think that's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. Because it makes it feel important when these people finally lose them.
Sure. And Dak Draper and Mims, are they gonna take it away from La Rebellion? I don't think so.
They've been getting a little TV push, but it doesn't feel like it. But in this company, who the fuck knows?
NWA World Junior Heavyweight title match. Kerry Morton defending the title against Joe Alonzo, Chicago's very own Joe Alonzo.
Yeah, so Joe Alonzo has a NWA contract now, and he's the exact kind of guy who they should sign and develop. He's perfect for them. He could talk. He's a great heel. He was working AEW dark matches during the pandemic, and then he kind of Joe Alonzo'd his way out of that scenario. So he kind of blew that, but this is perfect for him and perfect for his development and perfect. It's a perfect marriage, really.
Yeah, I agree.
And Kerry Morton has been really good in this company. And again, he's a perfect guy for them. I like how they have the Mortons. I like how they have the Kazanas. I like how Baby Doll's daughter, whose name is escaping me now, Stephanie Starr, I think is her name, who was a third generation wrestler, obviously, because she's Sam Houston's daughter and, that whole connection. That Bobby Fulton has been on the TV. I like how it's not just NWA in name only. You do have some connections to the past, and that's really what gives it an NWA feel. If nothing else, it's poorly booked. There's shitty talent. The matches are almost never good, but it does feel like authentic NWA because of the presence of people like this, like the Mortons. And Kerry Morton's a good little wrestler.
Yeah, Kerry's solid.
Yeah, do I think he's a future television star or anything? I mean, probably not. But for a promotion of this level, he's great.
Then we have, for the NWA World Women's Tag Team title, Maddie and Missa Kate versus Pretty Empowered 2, Ella Envy and Roxy. We have a new Pretty Empowered.
So we have 4 different members of Pretty Empowered now. So there's a couple different versions of the team. Plus, Kenzie Page's little sister is in the promotion now. So you can make that a 5th. Maddie and Missa Kate won the titles from Pretty Empowered 2.0 by cashing in. They won that team challenge series thing, and everybody who was part of the team gets a title cash in because everybody has to copy WWE. You know how it goes. And they used their cash in to win the women's tag team titles, and now Pretty Empowered wants them back. So that's the story here.
NWA World Women's Television Title Tournament Final. Yes, we finally have an NWA World Women's Television title. Max the Impaler versus Kenzie Page, the aforementioned member of Pretty Empowered, Kenzie Page.
Yeah, they did the tournament throughout the whole last set of tapings, and these are the last 2 people, and should be a decent little match.
Yep. NWA National Heavyweight title, Scion versus EC3. Scion is the champion defending against EC3. This has a chance to be one of the most boring, terrible, bad matches you've ever seen in your life. Dude, I am falling asleep thinking about how bad this match is going to be.
So EC3 has been beating a series of jobbers on TV that are all, the gimmick is they're hand-picked, easy opponents, all from the CYN universe. So he faces all of these guys who used to be in his Control Your Narrative promotion, and like Joe Galley and Tim Storm will spend the whole match complaining that he's not facing real competition. He's facing ringers. Does that get your juices flowing for this?
No.
Okay.
No, it doesn't. Sorry. Is it supposed to?
Well, that's the story.
Oh.
Also,
okay.
It looked like he was going to face Tyrus, but then they switched gears for some reason.
I think I'm okay with that. I don't think I want to watch Tyrus and EC3, but Scion and EC3, I guess that's not much better either. But yeah, good God, it gets the top end of these shows, man. Oh boy, and Scion.
They sent Scion to the White Sox.
Yeah, he threw out the first pitch, and they won the game. They won the game, so good for them.
Yeah,
they've won a lot of games since.
He pitch relief.
They needed him today. They gave up 16 runs, and they had they were looking for anybody who had a warm body to pitch. They could have brought him back in. He could have done an inning or two for sure. God damn it. NWA World Women's Title match, Camille versus La Rosa Negra. And we always talk about Camille. Always, always, always. How in all of the wrestling world, that's just so going out of their way to make sure that we overhype mediocre. I mean, there's a lot of mediocre women around wrestling that just people just overhype. And there's really great women's wrestlers that people do hype. But then a lot of the mediocre ones, they're just like, but Camille is great. Like really, really good. Draws, is a big time champion, and nobody talks about her. Nobody talks about her at all. Nobody. And it boggles my mind. It's like, what more do you need out of it? She's good. She's improving. She looks like $1 million. She's had the title forever. They push her like a top star in that company. Like, what are we doing, But I don't know.
If La Rosa Negra holds up her half, this is going to be the best match on the show again.
Yeah, Camille always has the best match.
Always has the best match on the show. It'll be this or Kerry Morton versus Joe Alonzo.
Yep. Yeah, it's always a Kerry Morton. It's like Kerry Morton versus Homicide, and then whatever the Camille match is. It's always the best match on every one of these NWA shows.
A dark horse would be Max the Impaler versus Kenzie Page. But the rest is just going to exist, including the next one, which is going to be awful.
Yeah, and then the main event is Tyrus defending the NWA World Heavyweight title against Chris Adonis, the former Chris Masters.
What do you think? Is it lock on that master lock? New NWA World Champ?
I hope so, but I'm not too. I wouldn't be betting on it. I bet you helped me bet on Roman, and I won a significant amount of units betting on Roman Reigns to win that title, but. Or to retain that title, but I'm not betting on the master of the master lock to take down Tyrus this time. So no, I think Tyrus is going to retain the NWA World's Heavyweight title.
Tyrus wrestled once on those 16 shows in a tag match, and let me tell you, he got nothing from the crowd. He didn't get booed. He didn't get cheered. He got the dreaded nothing. They just didn't give a fuck about him. And part of the problem is no one knows if he's a babyface or a heel. It changes like every segment.
Every time I watch, it changes. I think on a week, I don't watch the week-to-week television, but I know every single pay-per-view it changes.
Sometimes in the middle of the match.
Yeah, that has happened before, yes.
Yeah.
That has happened. So where you don't know where he is right now? Like where in this? Like who is Chris? What is Chris Adonis? Like why is Chris Adonis having this match? Like why should I care?
Well, I don't know because I thought EC3 was going to have a match, but
okay,
I'm pretty sure Tyrus is a heel right now.
Okay,
but EC3 is a heel.
Oh,
Chris Adonis is a babyface. That I know.
Okay.
Get into it.
This sounds great. I do a 3-1-2 taking place April 7th from Studio One Events LLC in Highland Park. It is available on voicesofwrestling.com/fight. All right. So we have run over time. Did you want to quickly, as quick as we humanly can, do the Sakura Genesis and Enzo just to get everything out of the way?
I think Sonata has a real chance.
I do too. I do too.
I wouldn't put it at over 50-50, but I think that he has a real chance to be the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion.
We said it a couple weeks ago that like if you want to make this guy like because you can't if you do all this retransformation and he cuts his hair and he shaves the beard and he starts he joins up with the new unit and he wins the New Japan Cup and he just eats a Rainmaker, like what are we doing then? We're right back to square one with him.
Yeah, I think he has a real chance. So we'll see. And, just 5 guys has gotten over pretty well in the Korakuens. And maybe they're finally pulling the trigger for real. And they've reshuffled the deck on the units. They've been pushing some new people. It would fit sort of what their 2023 has been to greenlight a new guy and make him a top guy. And we know how Gato likes to do it. He'll probably lose it back in a month to Okada. He'll get that. If he wins, it'll be that title win that establishes you at the new level, and then they take it right off of you, which they've done a million times. So we'll see. Hiromu versus Robbie Eagles. Robbie Eagles is now part of TMDK. He said he's mad that Chaos let Leo Rush jump the line. So that's why he quit Chaos. That should be those guys always have good matches. Bishamon, we always say they're going to lose.
I feel like they're going to lose here too, right? But
I do. Aussie Open, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They should.
Which means they'll probably win again.
They're going to win again for sure. So I just want to lock that in where I think Bishamon should probably lose and probably will lose. So now you can bet for sure that they're going to win.
Sabre Jr. defends the TV title against Shota Umino.
Big spot for Umino. Big spot for him.
Are you still out on Umino?
I still am. I still am, but he can prove me wrong if he wants.
Mane versus Hazuki and ACM.
No. EITA. Deep cut.
Well, look, she's 5th from the top. I've seen some belly aching. Here's how I'd look at this. If you're one of these crazy Sasha Banks fucking weirdos, you can get in and out because you don't have to watch. Why do you want her at the end of the show? Then you got to stay up until 6:30 in the morning. Right? Isn't this better? Her match happens.
They just complain. They don't know or care. They're going to watch. They're going to see a GIF or just like respond to a GIF on Twitter. They don't know.
Yeah, but this way the match happens at 2 and you can go to bed at 2:30. I don't know. I think this is bad. I'd want her to open, honestly.
That'd be great. Yeah. Get in, get out. Yeah. Have it for free. New Japan should have her open and put it on free for on New Japan World or whatever. Yeah.
And then I could watch and I could go to bed. And then the tags. Do we have to go through the tags?
No, we definitely do not need to go through the
tags.
We
would if we had more time, but
right.
Look, Sakura Genesis is going to get a lot of time on this show next week.
Right. We'll review the entire show next week for sure. So you're going to get that. NWA.
And then
NWA 302.
So MLW aired their 9th episode of TV, and the word on the street was they were only getting 10. So we're going to find out after next week if that was true or not. And they're getting bumped off of reels. And we talked about Enzo a little bit earlier. And they announced he was released because he had some trouble with the creative. He didn't want to cut promos on a man with cancer. So obviously that meant Richard Holiday, right? He's facing Hammerstone, and Holiday and Hammerstone have always been aligned in the story. So Enzo is saying he didn't want to cut promos on a guy with cancer. And then there was some other reports saying he had some problems with doing jobs to certain people, which I find kind of weird because he did a job to Microman. Or maybe he figured, all right, I already lost to a fucking midget. I don't want to lose to, I don't know. Who knows? But Enzo shoots back and says he never signed a deal. He said he had a handshake. And then, the quote is actually, thanks for everything. I had fun. #MLW. So the bottom line is they've lost their main event for Battle Riot because he was going to face Hammerstone for the title after losing to Microman. Make it make sense, Rich. But I haven't checked the spoilers, but I think he wins the 4-way match that's on TV next week. So I guess maybe that's how they made him the number one contender. But
well, who's going to face Hammerstone at Battle Riot?
I don't fucking know.
It's happening tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they've said. I don't think they've announced anything. But
all right, well,
it's MLW. It'll be fucking Savio Vega or something. Who knows?
These companies, the MLW and NWA need to just form one gigantic company to make it just a lot easier to follow these just horrific companies that somehow find outlets and people go to these shows like this MLW show. Like there will be people there too, and you're like, how do you even know about the show? Like, how did you know that this show was happening?
They're watching MLW Underground.
Are they? I've seen those numbers. I don't know that they're watching it.
50,000 strong. Listen, it's Court Bauer. It's gonna be it'll be fucking Laredo Kid or something. He's gonna
He'll
find
a
somebody.
way. Yeah, Loki. Maybe he can speak to Loki again and find
Loki. Yeah, he's gonna find someone.
He finds a way.
He'll kick the tires on Davey Richards and see if that is blown over. It hasn't.
Yeah,
Court
it
will
is
take
not.
a look.
Yeah, it is not. But
Court will kick the tire. He'll find somebody.
He'll get it.
What's Austin Aries up to?
Nah, not much. I don't think.
Yeah, he'll find someone. So that's not going to be a problem.
Always does. The world doesn't stop. The world of MLW does not, will not, never stops. World of MLW. So there you go. And that is it for us. It might stop in another week and. They don't have. It's not gonna be in real.
Yeah,
anymore.
It might actually stop next week when the TV stops. Yeah.
So they'll find a way. They always do. They always will. All right, so that is it for us. That has been another edition of the Flagship. Again, for all of our bonus audio, flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, or voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon, including 14 and a half hours of WrestleMania weekend coverage, the match of the week that you mentioned, and all of our other bonus content, retro, Thursday Dynamite review, all that other stuff is available at flagshippatreon.com, patreon.com/voices of wrestling, and voicesofwrestling.com/Patreon. Make sure you also subscribe to the Voice Wrestling Podcast Network, not just the Flagship feed, but all the feeds. You can subscribe to the Voice Wrestling Podcast Network feed and get all the podcasts in one, or you can subscribe to individual feeds for your favorite shows as well. We definitely recommend doing that. And voicesofwrestling.com for event coverage, previews, reviews, and voicesofwrestling.com/Discord to join our Discord and join the conversation. But that is it for us. That is Joe. I'm Rich, and we will talk to you next time on the Flagship Podcast. Take care. Bye.
Hi, I'm Case Lowe, co-host of the Open the Voice Gate podcast. The one question I'm constantly asked when it comes to Dragon Gate is, how do I get into the promotion? Well, stop asking and start listening to the Open the Voice Gate podcast, released every Wednesday on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. For exclusive news and show reviews, look no further than the leader in Dragon Gate coverage, Open the Voice Gate.
Hello everyone, my name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the podcast all about Joshi Pro Wrestling here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. Every other Monday, we are with you talking about the biggest news in Joshi, along with show reviews, previews, and much, much more.
So if you're new to Joshi or you've been a longtime fan, this is the show for you. We've got something for everyone here. So check us out, Jumping Bomb Audio.